It's the halftime show, 12 o'clock on your Friday afternoon. Welcome in, Tyler Head. Along with you, waiting for the casually late, as always, Terry Ford. So if you're placing your bets, go ahead and put him in now because I looked out in the bullpen. I still did not see him, so it could be a couple minutes before Terry Ford does show up here in the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. Obviously, a lot to get to today. As we were talking about in the last hour there, the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs, our primary focus this weekend is on South Carolina spring game as we finally, as a collective public, get to see this team in action. Media's gotten to view these little glimpses over the course of spring practice, roughly about one time a week, getting to see a couple sessions of them out there. But that's really all we've had to go off of. That and what we've heard from the coaches and their individual media availabilities. But that's kind of the funny thing about coaches, especially this time of year where everything is so much behind closed doors, is they're never going to tell you who really looks bad. When you ask Coach Beamer or Loggins or Clayton White, hey, how's so-and-so looking, or how's this group of players looking in practice, or whatever it may be, they're going to give you the same thing of, oh, they look good and we like what they're doing, with X, Y, and Z, or how they're developing here, there, or whatever it may be. Rarely do they ever say, like, man, this guy's not doing well. There's a clear gap between these two guys now at this spot that are competing for a starting role or whatever it may be. So we're going to finally get a chance to see those kind of things on display coming up tomorrow night. And again, I advise everyone, it is a spring game at the end of the day, so what comes away from it is not necessarily written in stone. Again, if Lenore Sellers goes out there and plays his butt off and is throwing touchdowns and making guys miss left and right, and Robbie Ashford's throwing interceptions and getting sacked, that doesn't necessarily mean that Lenore Sellers is going to be handed the keys to the starting job coming away from the spring game, because at the end of the day, it is about what happens over the course of the entire month of practice, not just in a 2-hour-ish sample size of what the spring game is going to be. But again, as a viewing public, we're going to glean a lot from what we see and what our eyes tell us. And tomorrow is the ultimate eye test when it comes to South Carolina football and what we know about this team in general. And we will see going into the summer and into fall camp, obviously, what we can take away from the spring game in terms of who's going to be playing what roles, who are going to be the starters, and what this team as a whole is going to look like heading into that first game against Old Dominion, and ultimately the onslaught of the SEC schedule that South Carolina is going to have to deal with. And more than anything else, Terry and I talked about this yesterday, you just want to come away feeling good. You just want some kind of optimism. Last year did not go the way that you wanted it to. You missed a bowl game. You lost to your in-state rival. Like, it was very much a step back in a lot of ways compared to what the first 2 years under Shane Beamer have been. You just want optimism. You want to be able to say, even though you're not going to know who the starting quarterback coming away from tomorrow night is, hey, Sellers and Ashford looked good. Man, they were both throwing the ball around. The receivers looking good, getting space, and man, the running backs were getting down the field. The line was blocking for them. The linebackers are making tackles. These guys are going sideline to sideline. Defensive front was getting pushed. You just want optimism. You want things to be excited about, to look forward to this upcoming spring, instead of, man, we look like crap on Saturday. And the entire summer, that's all you're talking about is, man, I don't know. This team might not win a game this fall. Hopefully they'll surprise us, but we don't really know. Like, you just want that optimism as a fan base to give you hope going into this fall. Because, again, you look at that schedule, it ain't easy. And we talked about it already. Going to a bowl game, that might be your ceiling. That's not a bad thing. That'd be a step up from a season ago, but you're going to have a tough time finding those 6 wins. And, again, you want to feel good coming away from Saturday knowing that that's still on the table going into this fall.
Hey, how you doing?
4 minutes late. Not too bad.
I spent the last 77 hours of my life on customer support with Disney and ESPN. So, yeah.
Did Mickey Mouse himself talk to you?
Yeah. Oh, Mickey Mouse didn't want to hear from me.
Listen here,
Mickey
fella.
Mouse don't want to hear from me. Look, you try not to take it out on the people on the phone. It's not their fault.
Sure.
But unfortunately,
but you have to blame someone.
Yeah, and they're representing the company that's annoying the hell out of you, right?
Funny you say that. I get the calls from the University of Georgia like once a month about their like alumni relations and donations and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not in a position to donate to my alma mater, unfortunately, but every month the same, 20-year-old girl that's working for $3 an hour at the school is calling me saying, "Hey, we hope you're doing well. We'd love to hear from you. And hey, if you want to give back, here's your opportunity."
Right.
And again, I knew plenty of people that did this when I was back in school. I know the position she's in, trying to make a couple bucks while in between going to class. I'm not going to be mean to her. I respectfully decline. I'm like, "Hey, I'm just not in a place right now. Maybe try me again later down the line," because I know she's going to call back in a month anyway.
And everybody calls at the worst possible time. It's never the best time.
It's like it's 7:30 at night.
I know.
I'm like, this isn't the time to do this kind of thing.
Right, and you know that person's sitting there, and they even know.
Well, they're reading from a script.
Right,
and
it's not their fault. They're just trying to make some extra beer money or whatever it is.
I get it. I knew those people. Too. Like, I'm not going to be mean to that person.
Right, and so it's like, for me, for this whole issue of, I've got, for some reason, I have an ESPN Plus account and I have a Disney bundle. I have two different accounts.
Yes.
Which is screwing up everything, right?
Are you paying for both?
I've found out I am.
Oh, well, that's the problem.
It's like that dopey commercial on TV where the guy goes, "Hey, you've got 73 accounts," and because you can get the app now, I guess, through whatever.
Or you could seize what your annual monthly subscriptions are. Or
so
whatever.
Obviously I need that because right now I have a standalone ESPN Plus I pay $10 a month for, and a Disney bundle that I pay, I don't know, $14 a month for.
Sure.
So they're double dipping me.
Yeah.
And of course they're not going to call me and say, "Oh, by the way, sir, you have two accounts and you're spending $10 extra." No, they're going,
like, look at this dope. He's paying us twice.
Look at this moron. Woo! So now I've got to stay on the phone and try to get this whole thing straightened out. And again, they're just doing their job.
Sure,
I know.
Sure.
But oh my God, after a while it's like, and the one thing I said, "So what device did you set this up on?"
Yeah.
How do I know that?
Yeah.
It probably was my laptop, but it could have been my phone, could have been my tablet. I don't know. I could have done it on a payphone. I don't know.
Speaking of Disney customer service, funny enough, this is telling Wes and Chris, this is my anniversary weekend from getting married a year ago. I can't believe it's been a year.
Wow, has it been a year?
I know, and the monster truck thing. We talked about that the other day.
I tell you.
But so we went on our honeymoon down at Disney. We left the day after the wedding, went down there, and we had the hotel and all that set up. The day before our wedding, Disney calls my wife and says, "Oh, by the way, your hotel is not ready," because they were doing some construction or something like that. So as she's dealing with all this wedding stuff, she's telling me, "Hey, they don't have a hotel for us right now."
Ugh. Nice.
It worked out. They actually upgraded us to a much nicer one.
How would you like to have to make that phone call, by the way?
Oh, my God. Well, and again, that person, and she told the person, like, we got some other stuff going on this weekend. Don't really have time to deal with this right now. But the fortunate thing is they did upgrade us to a much nicer hotel that we would have not been able to afford otherwise.
That's how you fix that problem.
Exactly.
Ready?
I was like, "Yo, you're going to make it worth my while. Don't worry."
Your room is not ready. What? Blah, 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 blah. Bleep, bleep, bleep. Oh, we're just going to upgrade you to the ultimate king newlywed suite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. We were in the Contemporary, which is literally right across the street from Magic Kingdom. And like the monorail thing runs through it. It was great.
I know that, what'll happen on this whole double account is they'll say, "Gee, Mr. Terry, since you've paid all this extra money, we're going to give you this X amount of money in credit." No, they're not.
No. They're like, "Well, you shouldn't have been paying us twice."
Yeah, exactly. So guess what, sucker?
Say, "And what did we learn today, sir?"
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's what I was doing. And I started this like what I would have thought was plenty of time, but obviously it wasn't. Nice guy. I try not to get too sideways with him because, again, it's not his fault.
Right.
Obviously, it's my fault because I have two accounts. Who knew? All right, so you're talking about the spring game with the hope.
Yes.
And that's really what everything is in general. You always want to build hope in your fan base in any sport, any market, anywhere. They're trying to build hope in Tuscaloosa right now, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the GOAT's gone, but, hey, Kalen DeBoer got to the college football playoff last year. He was in Washington State at University of Washington.
They play football out there?
Yeah, all they typically do is drink coffee. No, their college football team at UW actually made the college football playoff. This guy's really good. We've got hope. It might be just like Saban.
Didn't realize you could play football wearing Carhartts and hiking boots.
Absolutely, you can. So, yeah, that's the thing. You're building hope there.
Sure.
You're building hope all these different places. Michigan, who won the national championship, is trying to say things are still going to be great, even though Coach Kakis is gone.
Right.
We're going to be okay.
Now we got the guy that was crying like he died on TV.
About Coach Kakis. I just want to thank Coach Kakis.
It's like you realize he's alive. He's just watching in his hotel room, right?
He's ready. He's not in a jail cell in the TV show Oz. It's okay.
He's alive and well.
He's all right. He's not getting waterboarded every day by the NCAA. Come on, Harbaugh. Spill it. Tell us about those cheeseburgers. No, he's just in a nice... And by the way, the hotel, I'm guessing it's not the bring your own sheets motel.
No, and they bring him all the pizza and whole milk he wants.
Not an hourly rate.
No.
He's okay. Look, he might end up being a phenomenal head coach. But that alone, if I'm going to be interviewing a guy, I got to get that out of my head, right? Sure. I've got to get that out of my head before I talk to him. I really do.
That's going to be a hard one to shake.
Yeah, I just be like, God. So there's hope. Everyone's building hope is my point this year.
Yeah.
Even at Georgia, they were a W in the SEC championship away from playing for a three-peat.
Yep.
You're building hope in your fan base. Yes, once again, we lost 7,300 5-stars, but we've got a lot of 5-stars to come in. The quarterback is returning. This is there, that's there, this, that, and the other. Everywhere in America this year, they've got to build hope.
Sure.
No one is not on the hope bandwagon. Now, going into like last year, maybe Georgia, there's no hope. You don't have to build hope. Everybody's like trugging along for a three-peat, right?
Right.
And in Tuscaloosa, you don't have to worry about building hope because who do you have in the coach's office?
Yeah.
But guess what? Now you got to build hope. Hope is what you got to do. Everywhere in the country, you're looking to build hope. Just like here. And the spring game helps you build hope. And look, most people, don't they get it, Tyler, like in the back of that one objective, realism spot in their head? Mm-hmm. They go, I know it's just a spring game.
Sure. Well,
but you still want to build hope off of that to say, I saw things that make me feel good moving forward. Next time they play a football game, I got some good vibes.
Yeah, totally. So. And again, we've only been able to see, really not even see, just kind of reading what, guys like Wes and Chris have seen from practice and the small little clips that, the football Twitter account puts up there of like one or two plays. Like that's all we've got to see. So we're just starving to get a full display of 2.5 hours of just the team out there playing football. And again, it's not going to answer every question that we have, but it's at least going to give us some insight to where we say, hey, I saw what that guy looked like at wide receiver. I saw what that guy looked like at defensive line, edge, whatever it may be. Like you're finally getting that eye test to give you some kind of baseline on what to expect.
I feel good about this stuff. I feel good. That's really what you want to do. All right, coming up, we'll hear from Dow Loggins, or D-Lo, like all of a sudden he's being called.
From the ice cream man.
The good humor man. We're going to hear from the good humor man coming up. Dow Loggins about the spring game and spring practice. Bottom of the hour, 12:30, our good bud John Whittle from the Big Spur is going to hop in here. We're going to talk some Carolina baseball and basketball with John. That's at the bottom of the hour. Up next, though, the ice cream man. The good humor man, Dow Loggins, offensive coordinator for South Carolina, talking about what's going on with the offense, spring practice, spring game, competition battles, things of that nature. And, of course, tonight, 6:45 pregame, 7 o'clock pitch, South Carolina, Arkansas, a gigantic series in the SEC at Founders. You can hear all of it right here on the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. Come back, Dow Loggins talking about the quarterback battle. Who's ahead? Who's winning? Who's not? That's next. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game as we roll up until 3. Then Elijah rolling solo. Jay is walking the course, hobnobbing with folks. Oh, gold. He's at Hilton Head, Tyler. He's right now drinking probably some kind of fruity drink with his pinky sticking out, talking to high rollers.
I was going to say, he's trying to get Scotty Scheffler to share some of that Masters purse from the weekend.
Yeah, he got a little bit extra there. Well, he is having a kid.
Apparently, like a month from now, though.
You know what kind of money suck a kid is.
And intern Joe and I were talking about this earlier because he was out at the Masters working this past weekend. There is no expectations for Scotty Scheffler this weekend.
Yeah, not at all.
Dude won the Masters. Obviously, he's got a lot going on in his life. Probably partied a little hard earlier on this week as well. Like, if he goes out there and doesn't make the cut this weekend, nobody's going to be like, oh, my God, what happened? It's like, no, dude won the Masters a week ago. We'll give him a pass.
Right. He's got like beer cans flying out of his cart. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, Scott, your ball's over there. Oh, that's right. Sorry.
So Jay's hanging out there. Elijah will be rolling today. Bunch of guests. Good stuff today with Elijah from 3 to 6 on the postgame show here on the game. Of course, tonight we have baseball. Tomorrow, baseball, 2:45 pregame with Arkansas. After the baseball game concludes, spring game. Chris Miller, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark, some goober named Terry Ford, all of us hanging out at the spring game. And again, our coverage starts right after baseball concludes here on the game in Columbia at 107.5. All right, Dow Loggins yapping with the media yesterday, Tyler. Let's get in with cut one from Dow, the timeline for naming a starting quarterback. We swear.
Really good question. Really good question, and we could probably spend 30 minutes on it. There's advantages to both. We've had 13 practices, so guys have had good days, bad days, continual growth. You're going to have that. The advantage of doing it is if you did it early, well, then everyone knows who it is. It's also, you still got a whole training camp in the summer, so what happens if, one of these young kids are all of a sudden the new guy, is a little bit better because he's been through it all, and the second time executing it, he's better at it. So, you evaluate everything. We've had 13 practices. Obviously, we're not ready to do that right now. We're semi-pleased where with everyone's at, but there's a long way to go with all of that. The disadvantage is this. Most of the time, the locker room knows who the best guy is, but based on practice anyway, or they have their own feelings of that. And to be honest, most of the time the locker room knows before the coaches know, because it is their team. The good teams are led by the locker room. And the disadvantage to not naming a guy is there's still 5 quarterbacks out there, and it's like, hey, who do we follow? Who do we lead? And it's the mentality of do your job. Like, do your job. Like that, keep the main thing, and worry about the things you can control. And same with those guys. So we're not there yet. We've had 13 practices. We have 2 left. So at some point, Coach Beamer and myself and the rest of the offensive staff will sit down and talk about this.
Yeah, look, in a perfect world, it's like last year. You know who your starter is, you're rolling in, you get it, everybody knows what's up. This year's not that year. And is part of this, we're not going to let you know who our starter is yet. We're not going to let you know till we absolutely have to let you know. And that might be when they all run on the field, but we all know who the starter is.
If you were playing a high-profile opponent in week number 1, I think there'd be an element of that, like last year against North Carolina. If we were having a quarterback debate then yes, keeping your opponent in the dark may be beneficial, but it's Old Dominion. You should be able to handle them. You're more concerned about what's happening in week number 2 against Kentucky. I really just think you want to flesh this out as much as you can, and you have 2 guys that, again, it does seem like Sellers is ahead right now, as we assumed he would be, but I don't think it's this clear-cut, he's running away with the job. Like, it sounds like Robbie Ashford's actually coming along pretty well.
Well, you hope that's what it is, right? You hope Ashford is playing really well, and the issues he's had throwing the football, they've helped correct some stuff, right? He might be getting developed by someone because Robbie told us no one's developed him before. And maybe it's because Ashford is playing so well that, he's making it more difficult. You hope it's not Sellers is not playing how you were hoping he'd be playing, so you still have a muddled quarterback situation.
Right.
You're hoping it's A, not B. So And again, the gamesmanship stuff, I've always said this. I get why coaches do it. I understand why everybody treats it like it's the combination of the CIA and the NSA and the DEA. Sometimes I think that's overplayed, to be honest, but I get it. I just hope that, one way or the other, we clearly know, and I think we will, that it's most likely going to be Sellers, but it's a clear cut. You don't want to, if you have two quarterbacks, you have none, man.
Yes.
You just don't. So somebody's got to win this gig and be the guy. And then hopefully play to the level that he needs to play to continue to be the guy. So we'll see.
Right.
All right, coming back in here in just a minute, we're going to talk to our buddy John Whittle from the Big Spur. We're going to go over some Gamecock basketball, the phenomenal seasons that the men and the women had, and also baseball as we're rolling into a big series at Founders against Arkansas. So John is coming up here just a minute. And who knows, maybe this weekend is the weekend, Tyler. Maybe this weekend a Gamecock hits a grand slam.
And if that happens, and if you're the lucky winner, you can buy yourself something real nice.
We're up to $925. That's the pot for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. It's really simple. You want to win? You want to win over $900? You go to 1075thegame.com. You look at the little flippy thing at the top, the little media reel, I guess is the fancy name for it. Once the contest comes up, you click. It takes you right to a page where you fill out a short form. You hit submit, and you're in. And if a Gamecock does hit a slam, we will draw the winner on Monday morning at 7:30 with Bill and Preston and Jen. So the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. The pot is over $900. So register, sit back, root for a Grand Slam. You might win some dough. Very simple. John Whittle from the Big Spur talking Gamecocks baseball and basketball next. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Halftime show with Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We're chasing our buddy John Whittle. We're going to get him here in just a little bit from the Big Spur. Talk some. Let me make sure I got the right time, Tyler. Hold on here, bud. Maybe I'm screwing it up. Let me see. Yeah, 12:30. It is 12:30. All right. So we'll chase John Whittle. We'll get John. And we'll get him in here in just a little bit. But until we get John, is he ready? Awesome. John Whittle. There he is. Hey, John Whittle.
Hey, sorry about that.
You're okay, man. Hey, like always, I thought I screwed up the time. So I was going through the text going, did I screw up the time? Because that's entirely possible, my man. It could have been me. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on, Terry.
Always love having you, my man. You're what? You're doing a little minor league baseball tour. Is that what you're doing right now?
Well, I did go see a couple of games in Jacksonville last night. Took in a little bit of Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp action versus the Norfolk Tide. The Jackson Holiday was Norfolk Tide, and I think they're on like a 8-game, 9-game, something like that losing streak. So went down there and saw a couple of those games, and now I'm headed up to Charlotte to pick up some stuff for our Big Spur golf tournament on Monday.
My buddy Jackson Holiday's scuffling a little bit, John. He's scuffling. He's got one hit so far. He's going to be fine. He is going to be fine.
He is going to be fine. I've got a buddy on who plays for the Tides, and we were kind of wondering if he would come back down at all to kind of reset. I think the answer's no, not yet, but we'll see.
John Whittle hanging out with us from the Big Spur. Talk some baseball and basketball here on the halftime show in the game. All right, baseball-wise, John, it's been we were talking about this yesterday. You look at this. You look at this team's record, but then you kind of watch the flow of the way the season has gone, and there'll be people in the fan base going, I can't believe their record's this good. They don't do this good enough or that good enough or this is a problem. They're trying to figure this out or that out. Then you kind of take a step back and go, with all the question marks they still have at this point in the season, the record is better than you would think if you start just to focus on what they're trying to accomplish right now while they're trying to win games.
Yeah, I mean, the resume looks a lot better than what the eyeballs have seen for a lot of the year. Not the whole year, but a lot of the year. And I wrote a story about this last week on the Big Spur, and I don't know the updated numbers off the top of my head, but going into last weekend, what's the most exciting thing in baseball? Scoring runs, right? Like, that's a big deal. So you South Carolina was second in the SEC, whether it was in SEC play or games overall, and it bats with runners on base. That's a great thing, right? Mm-hmm. And South Carolina was also last in the SEC and batting average with runners in scoring position, which is a bad thing, obviously. So you're getting all these opportunities to do something, the most exciting thing in baseball, which is to score, and you're failing at a rate higher than anybody else. So that's why I think fans have been frustrated by this year's team so much is they do some things really well that aren't really sexy, and they don't do things really well that, when you do it well, it is pretty sexy. So it hasn't been the most appealing team to watch at points in the season for large chunks of the season. But, they're in position that they still have everything available to them going forward, apart from maybe winning an SEC championship. It's hard to think that Kentucky's going to come back or Arkansas is going to come back to the field that much over the rest of the season.
John Whittle with us right now from the Big Spur here on the halftime show on the game. All right, so we see the pitching staff starting pitching, obviously still trying to figure that out, whether it's some ineffectiveness early in the year, injuries. Okay, if you're a gambling man, what do you think by the end of the season we'll be looking at on a weekend rotation? I mean, obviously Eli Jones will be in, but what do you think will happen after that?
That's a great question. Roman Kimball is a guy who I think who can do it. Ty Good is a guy who I think who can do it. Matthew Becker is a guy who I think you can do it, but all those guys have been better, save Roman Kimball, out of the bullpen. when you look at what they did with the rotation this weekend with Eli Jones starting Saturday, like you immediately think they're just dodging Hagen Smith, right? Putting your best pitcher against their not best pitcher. And, I get it, and Kingston's done that before in past years when he hasn't really had pitchers. But this staff is different. Like, if you watch these guys, all of these guys are better coming out of the bullpen. And, if you can make a bullpen day on Friday and a bullpen day on Sunday and have the only guy giving you length on Saturday, it does make a little bit of sense. And you realize that, maybe they're not actually dodging Hagen Smith. And this has been a conversation they've had over the last couple of weeks, putting Eli Jones in the Saturday role. And it does make some sense to me that they're doing that this way. And, maybe somebody will step up and be one of those guys who can give you 5 or 6 innings. But they've given everybody a couple of chances. I guess Ty Good's gotten one, but they've given everybody a couple of chances, and nobody's really grabbed a hold of it yet.
John Whittle hanging out with us from the Big Spur. We talked some baseball. Now we'll flip it over to a little hoop, John. Obviously Cam Scott a couple days ago announces he's going to go to South Carolina. Top 40 recruit in the country, top player in the state. Obviously, this just builds the momentum off of a very successful season and keeping another in-state kid from going somewhere else, especially one of that level.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge deal, and it was majorly disappointing for that staff to lose them when they did. Texas just swooped in, and it was a school Cam liked, and swooped in and just gave him something that he couldn't turn down. But, Cam was always somebody who valued being local and being close to home. And, at the end of the day, that just kind of won out. I know that Gunter talked about this, when he had Cam on the show, but talked about, him actually staying at Lexington when so many players of his caliber go out and play at an academy or something like that. But that just shows what Cam ultimately wanted was to, be at South Carolina, be close to home. And, I think it's going to be good for him, and it's certainly huge for the Gamecocks because, they got a guy who can come in and start right away and do a lot of things that can be really helpful, especially on the offensive side of the court. He can handle it. He can pass. He can shoot. He does a lot really well, especially on that end. At great size, being about 6'5". So, I think it's obviously huge for South Carolina to get this guy, get Cam in, and he'll be ready to make an immediate day one impact, sure.
Hey, John, we see some other names in the transfer portal because, again, South Carolina needs a point guard. They'd love to upgrade at the center position. Whether it's Dakota LaFou from Mount St. Mary's, a point guard, about 6'5". You got Nick Pringle, South Carolina kid who played at Bama last year at 6'10". Connor Essinger, who's, I guess, more of a two-guard, who was at Wisconsin. Any idea, anything close to possibly happening for South Carolina to add in the portal that because I know you have the offices bugged.
Well, LaFou and Pringle are the two main guys that they really have circled, and that doesn't mean that they're going to be really in a bind if they don't get those guys. But I mean, those are the guys. Those are 1A and 1A. So I mean, those are the guys they want. Both of them are going to be tough gets because you know what? A lot of people want them, and a lot of people are going to spend a lot of money from an NIL standpoint on those guys. So, I know that Syracuse and Villanova really want LaFou really badly. Those are two good basketball schools that are going to be really tough to beat. And, Pringle is still kind of sorting through things. And, South Carolina's trying to get him onto campus yesterday. I mean, they want him here as quickly as possible for a visit. So, LaFou's this weekend, and we'll have a much better sense of where things go from there. It's going to be interesting to see how things kind of shake out from a guard standpoint next year. I mean, Cam Scott can play a little point, LaFou can play a little bit of point, but both of those guys really like to score. And Jacoby Wright can play a little point, but he really likes to score. Like there's there's not the Talon Cooper in that they're targeting that, is the guy who's really looking to get somebody else to score. So, that was obviously a big deal last year, and for the Gamecocks, having a guy like Talon, and, we'll see how they kind of piece those things together, but, they've got some guys who can certainly carry that load from a distribution point guard standpoint, but, they've also in that guard spot too.
Yeah, I love that pass first point guard, John. I love that guy. That's why I love Cooper last year so much. So it is going to be interesting to see how they would piece it together. Anybody else on the roster that could maybe develop and step into one of these roles?
Well, and I will add to that, like, LeFew does have a good assist rate. Like, I can't remember the numbers exactly off the top of my head, but I think Talon Cooper was around 220 or so.
Yeah.
Assist rate, which seemed not. I would have figured it would have been better than that. And Michi was maybe around 320 nationally, and LeFew was like right smack dab in between those two guys. So, it's not that he can't distribute the ball, but they've had high hopes for Morris Ugas, and we'll see how he develops over the course of the summer and into next year. I mean, as you guys probably remember, sometimes we all need to be reminded of, like, he was supposed to redshirt this past year.
Right.
So, we saw him have a little bit of action, and there was some really good, and there was some that's not quite looking like that's caliber. Well, we wouldn't have seen that. Now he's got that experience. He'll have the whole off season. I think he's got a chance to be really good. We'll see if he can develop into that true point guard, for next year.
Man covers everything. He's going to the National Pickleball Tournament next week. You're a wild man, John Whittle.
I love it. So, while I'm here, I do have to plug the Big Spur Golf Tournament. We're playing on Monday, April 22nd, 9 a.m. shotgun start for Fort Jackson Golf Club. So we still got a few spots available. And
just hit thebigspur.com if they want to jump in, right?
Absolutely. We got a message pinned at the top of our message board, and hopefully folks will come want to play.
John Whittle, we always appreciate you, man. We'll bug you again soon, pal. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. Great talking to you guys. Have a good afternoon.
You too, John. We'll see you. That's John Whittle, Big Spur. We'll come back in here. Our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404-6100 is next. It is a halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head hanging on the game. Time to check out the old Firehouse subtext of the hour here on the old halftime show. The old Tyler Head, the old Terry Ford. I was going to say the old and start every sentence.
Yeah, we're not that old.
Yeah. Could be older.
Could be. Hey, we're as young as we'll ever be again. Think about it that way.
Whatever that meant. I'm with you. That's one of those you just said to be sure, man.
You're the oldest. You're currently the oldest you'll ever be. You're the oldest you've ever been, and you're the youngest you'll ever be again. That's the proper way to say it.
I like it.
Really kind of messes with your mind.
You know what? I'm just going to roll with you on this.
It's one of those things you think about when you're like sitting on a hill, staring off into the distance,
Really?
having a Bill Walton moment.
You do a lot of that?
I don't. Not a Grateful Dead fan.
Where I grew up, you saw in the hills, staring out, dodging bullets.
That shaped you into the guy that you are
That
today.
made me the man I am today. Exactly. What do you got there on the old text line?
Yeah, so in reference to our conversation a little bit earlier about the quarterback battle, a nameless texter weighs in and says, we know nothing about Robbie Ashford. I wouldn't say nothing. We just have not been privy to a lot of information about him this spring because, again, media access has been very limited. The coaches, everything they've said about him has been good, which is, of course, what you expect coaches to say. We just haven't gotten to see him with our own eyes yet.
You know, when you've seen him before play and you look at the stats, he's just, what we know of him is he's had trouble throwing the football since he's been a collegiate quarterback. He had trouble when he was a starter at Auburn a couple of years ago. You know, last year they kind of used him as a glorified running quarterback. At Oregon, you know, he wasn't playing a lot at that time before he transferred, but his body of work is he struggles throwing the football.
Right.
But his legs, he can make some serious plays with his legs. That's all we do know. We don't know what he's doing in South Carolina. We don't know what kind of work they've put in with him regarding fundamentals and footwork and things of that nature. So he is kind of an unknown when it comes to what has Dow and the staff done to help improve basically his passing game.
Right.
That's all we know. But yeah, Texter, we haven't seen this version of him yet till tomorrow night.
Yeah.
All right. So I do agree. And that's what we're saying. Hopefully you're having a quarterback competition because like we said, how much of it is smoke and mirrors and gamesmanship? We don't know. But if you are still having a quarterback competition.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's because Robbie Ashford is stepping up.
Well,
not that Lenore Sellers is not progressing the way they were hoping at this point.
And that's the thing. And again, tomorrow is not the end all be all, and what you see is only a small sample size of what spring practice has been. But I really hope we walk away from that game tomorrow saying, man, they both looked really good.
Yes. But then here's what you do, because this is the problem with like when you're playing against yourself. Man, those quarterbacks look good. Man, I'm worried about the defense. Right?
But and that's the inevitable problem is you can never come away from this game feeling 100% good about everything.
No.
Because for every touchdown pass, why didn't the DB stop it?
Right. Who got beat?
Yeah, who got beat?
Why didn't you get any pass rush? Dude had a ton of time to throw.
For every 20-yard run by a running back, missed some tackles on that one.
Like quarterback drops back in a pocket, clean pocket, makes a big throw down the field. Your first thought is, man, that offensive line, nice job. Then your second thought, what the hell's wrong with their pass rush?
Yeah, exactly.
What happened?
Can't get to him.
What are we doing?
He was back there for 4 seconds.
Another reason why you need to play someone else in a spring game, right?
Or just go the 7-on-7 thing because you're not having those same takeaways from playing 7-on-7.
Yeah, it is so weird when you're playing yourself in a
But
spring
here's the
game.
thing: you can't lose.
No, and you can't win.
You can't. Well, I'm a glass half full type of guy, but that's also true.
This is the problem with the spring game right here.
Did you hear Chris immediately shut down my fun idea earlier?
I vaguely heard you had well, Chris was kind of he was like killing the campfires all day today.
So, because I was saying that we're going to have full coverage here for tomorrow night's spring game. Kickoff at 7, though they don't really kick off. But he said, well, they might do the thing where the kicker kicks it off and you have a return man that fields it and runs up the field, but there's no actual return unit out there on the field. And I said, wouldn't it be cool if they did like an Oklahoma drill where you have the returner and the kicker is the sole person responsible for trying to stop him? And Chris is like, no, they would never do that. I'm like, I get that they would never do that. But we're trying to have fun here, Chris.
Hey, come on, Chris. But I'll say this. I hear Oklahoma drill. I break out in hives from when I was a kid. Not the Oklahoma drill. God, I'll never forget. We're sitting around a practice when I was a kid. And they go, okay, Oklahoma. And everybody's going, oh, God.
They say that's the drill that creates a lot of basketball players.
Yes, Oklahoma drill is. It's like that one where they put you in a circle, too. That drill's not fun either.
Yeah.
Those are two drills when I remember the young Terry Ford going, wow, I hate these drills. I hate these drills. They weren't good. Or my favorite, that, if you didn't run your at the end of practice wind sprints fast enough, then you had to run more.
That your punishment for not running is running more.
Running more.
Yeah.
Or if one guy's lollygagging in the back.
Oh my! If one person screws up, we all screw up.
We all had to run.
Oh man, that my high school baseball coach, my first high school baseball coach, was a firm believer in that, and we got in trouble a lot.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ran into that, I was playing rec basketball.
Yeah.
And we had a coach. If somebody screwed up something, everybody run. And his idea was, you're not going to screw it up because not only are you affecting you, bud, you're affecting the whole
Exactly,
team.
and it's going to make your teammates hate you.
I was going to say, but you know what you're doing, Coach?
Again.
You're going to get the crap kicked out of me in the parking lot later.
Exactly.
Thanks.
It's going to teach you not to do that again, though.
Thanks, Coach. All right, we appreciate the text like always, 803-446-100 Firehouse Sub. Text of the hour. We'll get back in here. Obviously, football, and more football. Well, here's some more Dow Loggins. This time, Dow will talk about the running back room and the differences from last year and this year. That's coming up on the halftime show in the game. Oh, it's a halftime show Friday. Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game. 803-404-6100. If you want to hit us up, text us, call us, whatever the case. We'll have a Firehouse sub text of the hour coming up here in just a little bit. It's football, and more football on the 1 o'clock hour here on the game's halftime show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll start. There's a bunch of different stuff to get to, and we might put this. I think we might put this into the football hour. Something that they're doing for Memphis University FedEx that is very interesting on the NIL space.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll equate it to every state should do this that cares about college athletics, because this is the first. This is something Jay and I talked about a few months before we started this show. Jay and I had a conversation about this topic.
Yeah.
And we're asking why it isn't done or isn't done more, hasn't really been done yet. Well, it's getting broken through at University of Memphis. We'll get into that later on. And transfer portal stuff around the country is popping. We'll start off with Dow Loggins. Talking yesterday to the media, a bunch of different things. And Dow discussing in this cut the running back room this spring compared to last spring.
You know, last year was hard for me because I didn't know anyone when I got here. I mean, we played the South Carolina. They came to Fayetteville one day and we played, but you know, and I knew I knew who Spencer Leggett was. At this time last year, no one knew who Xavier Leggett was. So you know, Oscar obviously being from Arkansas, I had a little bit of familiarity with him because he's from Little Rock, and you know, and obviously being with Rocket for 2 years and knowing what type player he is, we all know what he's put on tape that way. So there's still some things of like young guys developing as well, and making sure like Juju being hurt creates opportunity for other people to make sure they get a little bit more rep. And Jawarn is a very new player and is a very raw, talented guy that we have to continue to get better every day. And every day he does something that's a new experience for him. And he's with Juju down, Rocky down. And both guys have played, and that's like it's almost an NFL mentality. Like when we had Darren and Felix at Arkansas and Peyton Hills, like Coach Nutt had those guys in green jerseys. They didn't practice. Like Darren and Felix never got touched. Darren McFadden and Felix Jones, they were in green jerseys and bubble wrap over there, and that's kind of where Rocket and Juju are right now. But now that DJ Braswell, Jawarn Howell, Oscar, like it's an unbelievable opportunity for you to get more reps. And we got 2 walk-ons with Nate and Larry getting reps that, you know, normally they're getting the very minimal reps, and they're actually getting a chance to prove themselves and get better. So there is some advantages to those guys not going, because we do know those guys. And those 2 guys need to protect their bodies. Have played a lot of football as well, but they have resumes, so we know. And getting these other guys reps is definitely going to help them. So we know a little bit more about those guys. And we've had a couple live situations, which for running backs, you really can't tell until you put the ball down and it's live, because like, does he break that tackle? Does he make that guy miss? Like, you guys have been at practice, and everyone's like, the defense is hooping, hollering, and like they're saying that stuff with Lenoris and Robbie, and all of a sudden when it's live, it's like, you know, last Saturday, Robbie or Lenore shrugs, like the defensive end's about to go hit him, and like he shrugs him off and takes off running. It's like watching KJ 2 years ago at Arkansas. But so there's different things like when it's live that you get to see from these running backs, which has been good.
Yeah, look, the running back room is just better, more deeper this year.
It's a 180-degree twist from a year ago where, again, you had so few bodies in that room that you had to take a guy that was effectively a wide receiver and turn him into a running back into Kerryon Joyner. And again, this isn't a knock on to Kerryon Joyner, because he was certainly the athletic type that had the ability to make that transition, but he wasn't a natural running back. And once you got into the season, obviously we learned that, but he was placed as a placeholder, if nothing else, last spring, because you thought, oh, well, South Carolina's going to be able to go out and get a running back in the transfer portal, and that obviously didn't happen. Logan Diggs was kind of the key one that South Carolina was going after. He obviously ended up, going to LSU, and now he's transferred out. I believe he's at Ole Miss now, funny enough. But, it's a 180 now. You've got a good, solid room that's deep. Yes, Rocket Sanders isn't playing right now, but you know you have in him when he gets back to full health. It's just a night and day difference from a year ago.
It's not being disrespectful to the guys in there last year. I mean, Kerryon Joyner was a quarterback who became a wide receiver, then became a running back out of necessity.
Yep.
And you had a Division II guy, Mario Anderson, who eventually became the starter. You know, Juju McDowell's a nice changeup piece, but no one's ever going to give the ball to Juju 20 times a game.
Right.
So it was just a different dynamic compared to this year, but obviously the whole thing begins and ends with the offensive line. We know that.
Can I ask you the question? What do you think the punishment would have been for the guy that tackled Darren McFadden in practice back in the day?
It's good having you here. Hate to see you go. We'll make sure we'll find you a nice landing spot somewhere.
Son, you know who that is? That's Darren freaking McFadden.
And you know who you are? Let's
Nobody. No longer on the team. That's what you are.
You're an ex-Razorback. That's who you are. So it's sort of like already, like we were talking about in the last segment. Oh, someone tackled McFadden. Everybody run gassers.
Yeah.
Except McFadden.
Yeah, it's like, you okay, Darren? You all right? Can I get you something? Is your knee okay?
We've got a staff of people just to pick you up off the ground.
Hey, man, he was a monster in college.
Oh, but that backfield. The guys, that backfield.
Felix Jones gets left out or doesn't get talked about a lot, but he's a monster too. And then you have Peyton Hillis Was that the year before or the year after him? I think it was the year before.
Yeah, but they were all there at one time together.
But
yeah.
I think 06 is when Hillis was there, and then 07 was like McFadden's like breakout year.
Yeah, they were those guys, and the next level. I mean, you know, McFadden never was the star they thought he was going to be.
Hillis got on the cover of Madden one year.
Yeah, and you know, Felix Jones did some stuff.
Yeah.
Hillis had that one great year in Cleveland.
Well, and that's what got him on the cover of Madden because he just broke out and
had
then
that
just never
great
really
year, and never did anything after that.
No, it was a one-year wonder.
So, running back room feels like it's in better shape. You have more depth in the offensive line, where you feel like you can, you hope you can put together 5 that are going to be solid for you and be able to help you in the run game, protect your quarterback in the pass game. Because look, we can sit here and talk about running backs all day long. If the offensive line doesn't do theirs, a lot of this doesn't even matter.
Right.
So that's going to be the biggest. Like I've never talked about offensive line so much in my entire life.
And here's the thing: we wish we weren't. Because if an offensive line is playing good and doing their job, you're never talking about them.
Exactly.
In fact, you shouldn't know the names as intimately as we do about these guys.
No, it's like long snapper.
Exactly.
Most team with a good long snapper, you say, "Hey, who's a long snapper?" I don't know.
Good. That means he's doing his job.
Exactly. It's like, you know, watching a game. Who are these refs? I haven't seen anything about the refs all day. Thank God. All right. We've been playing the heck out of this one all day, so we might as well on this show. Dow Loggins cut 3 here, Tyler, about the vanilla ice cream and the execution. By the way, he said this last year, too, in some way, shape, or form. Remember?
It would be vanilla ice cream, I promise that. I like vanilla ice cream, but not everyone else does. They want the sprinkles and the syrup and, yeah, all the toppings, and it's not going to be that. But it's going to be about execution, technique, and fundamentals. Anytime you go on the field, it's important. Every time you practice, it is the most important thing we do. It is the only thing in this program that really matters is practice. It's the only way to get better. It's the only sport. Think about this, basketball and baseball, they play games to get better. We practice 5 times a week to play one game. They play games to get better. So that's why it's really important for us. So it is an opportunity to, you know, I guess we're doing a draft and we'll split up so people will be playing with different people and those things, but it'll be more about technique, fundamentals, making sure we're executing our simplest form of offense.
Yeah, it's vanilla ice cream. We talk about the sprinkles and putting the syrup on there and the nuts.
Vanilla ice cream's still solid. Dave and I talked about this earlier. I think vanilla ice cream gets a bad rap for being too plain, but vanilla ice cream, you're like, that's pretty good.
Vanilla ice cream's solid. Look, I like pretty much all ice cream. I'm an ice cream freak. I love ice cream. The only ice cream I don't like, you know what's weird? I'm a coffee drinker.
You don't
like
coffee ice cream?
Don't like coffee ice cream.
It's definitely different. I'll say I'm not crazy about it myself.
But the rest of them, I'm good. Hey, give me a little Neapolitan.
Hey,
I'm good.
I love Rocky Road ice cream, chocolate chip cookie dough. Can never go wrong with any of those.
I have become crazy about chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream.
It's the best.
It's so good.
You have ice cream with cookies in it.
And who doesn't like to eat the cookie dough? Even though they tell you, you shouldn't eat it.
Well, that's the ones in the ice. I was actually, when I was a kid, I was actually worried about that. Like, wait a minute, isn't it bad to eat cookie dough?
You're gonna die.
But like, no, it's like it's a safe version of cookie dough. You're fine.
Oh, it's so good. I've grown to really, really dig chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream in the last 2 years.
Hard to beat.
But I love ice cream, except coffee ice cream. I don't know why. So, Dow, Vanilla ice cream's good, man. Just a bowl of it with nothing on it
Yeah.
is good.
And I'll say this: we talked about this the other day, especially for a season where you're redesigning the offense in a lot of way to match the skill set of whichever quarterback ends up being your guy. You don't want to give anything away. You want to be as basic as you can because then, yes, you're not worried about Old Dominion week number 1, but Kentucky is very interested to know what your offense is going to look like with this new quarterback.
And we talk about this. Spring games televised. People go in for free during spring games. Somebody might accidentally open up their phone and hit record. Whoops.
Got a Connor Stallions
exactly
in the South.
And you don't, because no one's doing that but Michigan.
No, and not at all.
That's the only.
Nobody got caught but Michigan.
Exactly, because nobody was as arrogant about it as Michigan.
Hey, well, what account did you use to buy those tickets? Oh, Connor Stallions 123@gmail.com.
Ready? What's your email? Connor Stallions. I'm videotaping illegally games at gmail.com.
Connor Stallions of the Michigan coaching staff at gmail.com.
Oh my God! So. That's why you're so vanilla. You don't want to show off anything, and I understand it. I hope they put a couple little fun things in there, but if they don't, I get it. But if it's fun to watch a little football in late April, and
give me a flea flicker or something like that. I'm good.
Just give me one thing.
Yeah,
one thing. It's fun.
That's it. Everything else basic.
It's not going to give away everything else. Just give me one little cool.
I brought up the idea the other day. Play a completely different style of offense. Go old school, power eye the entire time.
You were talking about going wishbone.
Wishbone, wing tee.
You know what I wonder, and this is totally, and I just thought about this when we were discussing trick plays. I wonder now that our buddy Pete Limbo is no longer with us, he has moved on to be a head coach again. I wonder if we're going to see less trick plays by the South Carolina special teams. Because Joe is old school, special teamer. But, again, Shane cut his bones on special teams, and Shane likes the trickeration. So it's going to be interesting.
I was actually interested in that the other day because when he was in L.A., he worked with Johnny Hecker, who, of course, is a punter that is very well known for his ability to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. They attempted one pass with him in the 2 years that he was out there with him in L.A.
When Jim Fossil's kid took over as the special teams coach, that's when they started doing some stuff with the Rams.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Joe is very old school dude.
Yeah.
But Shane likes to have a little fun with the special teams.
Sure.
And we saw it could be a momentum changer. You could score with it. I mean, there were some big plays the last couple years thanks to the South Carolina special teams that really helped to, like I said, either win games, change momentum, or whatever.
Right.
So it's going to be fun to see what happens. All right, we'll continue on football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We heard some Dow logins. We'll get back to Dow before the show's over. Let's spin over to Clayton White on the defensive side of the ball and hear from the Gamecocks DC. Next segment, we'll hear about the defensive schemes. We've talked about a lot of defensive schemes here since the beginning of November. Let's hear Clayton talk about the 425 and the 335 and the 3744 and 22515.2. All that's coming up on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on The Game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game. It's football here on the Game TV, the Game app, the Game Network. We're everywhere. And we'll tell you a funny story about Game TV at the end of this segment, which is pretty hilarious. Makes Tyler and I look really good, by the way.
Hey, nobody said we were the sharpest tools in the shed, okay?
Right. Butter knives. We're two butter knives. School scissors. All right. So Clayton White was talking to the media yesterday as well. And to rewind, now that you don't remember, last year, running a 4-2-5 scheme defense, South Carolina was scuffling. The defense struggled, tough getting off the field on third down, giving up big plays, had difficulty covering the slot, trouble consistently getting pressure on quarterbacks. Besides that, everything was great.
Yeah, besides that.
So then, Shane, like he did the year before with Marcus Satterfield, had a little come to Jesus, say, Clayton, come here, man. This ain't working. We got to do something. So to Clayton's credit, they decided to go to a 3-3-5 alignment. Obviously, you're taking away a defensive lineman. You're adding a linebacker.
And that element of the defense had always been there, but it became more prevalent at the end of the season.
Instead of using it here and there, they decided to use it more because...
What did they have to lose?
Well, what do you got to lose? Because that defense had really struggled. And B, you got it in your back pocket, and you got to be open to changing stuff, especially when it's not working. And you got to look at your personnel, right?
Sure.
And I think taking a step back, Clayton looked at his personnel and decided this was the best way to go. It unleashed Bam Martin-Scott last year.
Yeah.
Who all of a sudden became very much a problem for opposing offenses because Bam Martin-Scott started to get after quarterbacks. He was making plays near the line of scrimmage. It just fit his skill set, right?
Sure.
So now moving forward, obviously the question is, are you going to go back to the 4-2-5? You're going to stay with the 3-3-5? You're going to try to mix and match them both? Is it going to depend on the team you play? Blah, 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 blah. The players you have. Here's Clayton White discussing these two defensive schemes moving forward.
Yeah, we're definitely going with the flex nickel. It's definitely 50-50, right on the nose. You know what I mean? So we've done a good job this spring of sprinkling both of those in. There were some days, depending on who was practicing. One, it may be more 3-3-5, maybe more 4-2-5, depends on the personnel, like always. But today was probably a 50-50 day. I mean, that's one of the things that we felt like we ended the season with. We want to kind of always do what's best for the team.
And there's a couple thoughts here. One, because I always think of the KISS method of life.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when you have limited time to practice, because the one rule the NCAA hasn't lost in court over antitrust is practice hours.
I'm sure it's coming. How can the amount of practice hours limit someone's ability to benefit via antitrust?
Yeah, exactly. So right now, you have only a limited amount of time to practice. And that's why you've seen offenses in college football get very simplistic, not because guys can't learn complicated offenses, but because you have X amount of time to practice. And you want to put in the most productive, explosive, efficient offenses you can, right?
Sure.
So less thinking, more playing is always good. And I think the same thing with defense. I think, like the old saying, playing with your hair on fire, which sounds painful. If you're doing that, you're not thinking, you're reacting, you're playing.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like this 3-3-5 played to the personnel they had last year, to their strengths. And two, it seems like dudes just started playing.
Yep.
And so if you're multiple, and I get it, and I understand why you want to be multiple, because you want to do it depending on your personnel. You want to do it depending on the team you're playing. And I understand it. But I guess my one concern is, okay, if you've got these two different defenses, how is that working with the allotted time you have to prepare to use them both? Right?
I also think there's a little bit of gamesmanship in that answer as well.
Could be.
Because you're not trying to show your hand on the teams that you're going to be facing this fall. Like, oh, well, they're going to go 75% 3-3-5. Now we know what to prepare for. And, of course, as the season goes along, you're going to get tape on this team, obviously. But not wanting to tip your hand before you have to is a smart move.
And I'm hoping that's a lot of it. Because, look, can you play them both? Sure, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying when you have limited time to prepare and practice.
Yeah.
If you're – because, again, like the offense 2 years ago with Marcus Satterfield's a smart dude.
Yeah.
Like I said before, I bet you he could hit the whiteboard and wow you.
Sure.
right?
Sure.
Because he's an intensely smart man. But when you're handing too much stuff for players to learn in a limited amount of time, you saw it out. I mean, you could hear them thinking through your TV, right?
Yeah, totally.
These poor dudes are out there going, okay, all right, let's see. It's partly cloudy outside. We have a partly cloudy offense. What's
right.
barometric pressure?
YX2 Spider Banana left green on 3, double reverse Omaha, kill left on 1.
Right. Oh, my
Okay.
God. And now the free safety just picked his right nostril with his pinky.
All right, now we're audibly. Crap, I forgot that part.
Right. So you're sitting there going, oh, my God. And you don't want to get that way. The last thing you want are defenders thinking.
Sure.
And because one of the things when Florida was going in the crapper defensively the last so many years, you were hearing about that maybe there's too much verbiage, too many things going on in the Florida defense that last couple of years with Dan Mullen.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like these guys are thinking way too much. You're not just playing.
Right.
You want to react, right? React and attack,
Right.
not think. So that's my only thing about it is, and hopefully you're right. And it's just more gamesmanship than anything else. But just play the defense that fits your personnel. And then you go from there to see, okay, what fits our personnel? And 2, how do we take that now and attack the other team's weaknesses on Saturday?
Right.
That's what we're hoping for. All right, Clayton also talking with the media. Let's, I always love some of Clayton. I do. I love Clayton. Here's Clayton. Let's get here. Number 12. How much stock does he put in the spring game?
The spring game, I mean, there's some stock for sure because first and foremost, the coaches aren't on the field. I mean, you can't hear the coaches give you that last little coaching point. It's definitely a great opportunity for. It's kind of like a SAT or final exam type of thing. Like you're on your own now. I know you went and paid for all the training and all of the. The SAT prep, ACT prep, that's old school stuff. I don't know if they do that anymore. But you go get all that prep, and then when it's time to go that Saturday morning, go take that test, you're on your own. So that's kind of that's what I take from it. If a guy, I'm going to know if you really know your stuff Saturday because when we signal it in or yell it in through the headsets, you have to do, I can't tell you what else to do. So that's what I take from the spring games and effort and playmaking ability. Like those things you kind of have a feel for it, but you definitely get to see it more in the game.
I love Clayton caught himself. So here's what we do. Well, I can't tell you what we do. That was so good. But that's the cool thing about the spring game.
Right.
Is now you get to see who's studying, who's really boning up on their responsibility or their job, and who still needs to work on their responsibility or their job.
Well, and that's what we talk about with the spring game being more about the new guys more than anything else, because you know what you got with Debo, you know what you got with the guys in the line like Boogie and Tonka and stuff like that. But we want to see DeAndre Jules. We want to see Demetrius Knight. We want to see with the freshmen, Dylan Stewart and Wendell Gregory and J.R. Johnson. What are those guys going to look like in this true game-like scenario where you don't have the coach that's right in your ear up until the snap of the ball telling you to get in your position or whatever it may be? How do you handle this more independently on your own in a game type of environment?
Yeah, so that'll be fun. And it's not saying, it's just saying at this point, this signpost
Sure.
of late April, where are you at with what you know of what the system of offense or defense you're playing, and do you know your job?
And that, leads into the exit interviews, as they're calling them, with players coming up at the beginning of next week saying, hey, here's where we have you, here's where we thought you would be, or here's where we think you need to be, and how's that going to translate over the spring and the summer, or the summer and the fall to get you to where you want to be on the field and stuff like that. And some guys are going to see where they stand, saying, okay, well, I'm not where I need to be. I'm not where I want to be. I'm going to go transfer somewhere else. And other guys like, okay, I need to do X, Y, and Z this summer and this fall to get myself on the field.
So I think that's another interesting part of this is the exit interview scenario and process, especially with the transfer portal today. Because, again, a guy, here's what he doesn't like. He's walking out.
Well, and now there's no deterrent. You can just go.
You're breaking out your phone, putting yourself in the transfer portal. So it will be interesting. And look, I'm not going to be stunned if some dudes roll out of here who don't like where they're on the depth chart. It wouldn't surprise me at all. Not one bit. All right, we'll come back in here. Football in the 1 o'clock hour. Something happened at Memphis. We're going to get, and it's good for Memphis. We'll see if it can translate in other places, like maybe here in South Carolina. Football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, rolling up until 3 with the halftime show on the game. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head here on the game as we talk football. We'll get to a very interesting story here in a minute. University of Memphis just stepped up their NIL game huge. And we're going to get into that here in just a second. Saw this post from On3. Very interesting. First, though, so we're sitting here, Tyler and I. Now, we do the Game TV, powered by Integrated Media, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. And we say this all the time on the air. Look, we don't have a video director, a videographer. We don't have some Steven Spielberg sitting in a room, going, ooh, let's go to that cut of Tyler's hat. Let's go to a cut of Terry's bald forehead. Let's go. No, we kind of band together here and we do it ourselves.
Right.
Some days it's fantastic and some days, it's clunky because, again, we're radio people. We're not TV people. And we admit that. And so there's going to be days where it's screwed up or whatever, and we appreciate your patience while we try to figure it out. So one of our cameras that we typically have focused on Tyler, who's in the producer room producing and co-hosting, and I'm in the host studio, I go to turn it. It was fine.
Yes.
Then I turned it, and it wasn't fine anymore. And it just went out. So we have a three-camera setup. The Integrated Media guys have done a phenomenal job setting up the cameras.
By the way, they're a lot smarter than us.
100 times smarter. And they use the same type of cameras that Joe Rogan uses in his podcast. They're excellent cameras.
Totally.
So I turned it, though, and so that first camera goes out. So then we have to go to the shot of me talking, and just they can hear you and they can't see.
I'm the disembodied voice.
Yes. So you and I are going, okay, we got to take the cables from the third camera and put them on the cables of the first camera. All right, Tyler, I'm going to go down here underneath the console and you wiggle the wire and we can see where the wires. And so we're doing this nonsense for on and off for a couple breaks, right? A couple of commercial breaks. So Elijah shows up and he's like, and I texted him, did he know how to switch the camera cables or whatever? So he walks in. Walks over to the switcher box, moves two cables. I look up, I go, oh, wow. How'd you fix the camera? He goes, I did. And I just took the one cable from camera 3 and plugged it into the switcher where camera 1 should be. Took him, how many seconds?
2.
You and I were doing...
So here's the thing. He's done this before because we were messing around with camera combinations, and he got it to work, and I remember him telling me this, but I didn't ask him how he did it. So I was like, well, I know Elijah knows what to do. Wait till he gets here and he can fix it. I didn't realize it was that simple.
That easy. It took him 2 seconds. You and I were fiddling around for about a half an hour.
And the people couldn't see it, but after that first break, you're under there pulling on wires. I'm on the other side yanking on wires so we can see where they lead to. And it's like, well, I don't know if we should unplug this because it might not work in the other camera.
You and I were ready to take the whole console apart. And Elijah comes in 2 seconds. Oh, okay, we got a second camera again. Thanks, bub. Showing off in front of your dad.
Yeah, I was like, I thought I was good with technology. I guess not.
God, it was so bad. All right, so as we do football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game, the halftime show. FedEx, based out of Memphis, very friendly to the university.
Everything in Memphis is branded by FedEx, it seems like.
It is. And look, the guy that founded the company was a dude named Fred Smith.
Do you know who his son is?
Fred Smith Jr.?
No. Well, actually, yes, there is a Fred Smith Jr., but also Arthur Smith.
Oh, yeah. Our boy Arthur Smith.
Yeah.
How about that? I did not know that.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that why he gets coaching gigs?
That might have helped him get his foot in the door at some places.
You think? And so Fred Smith, has given money to Memphis before, about $50 million to renovate the football stadium in the past. Well, Fred Smith, Brian Phillips, the executive vice president, have announced that starting now, that FedEx will give the University of Memphis $5 million a year for the next 5 years to go toward NIL. So it's $25 million in totality. It will be dolled out for football, men's and women's basketball, and some other women's athletic programs. So football, men's and women's basketball, and some other women's programs are going to get $5 million a year for the next 5 years from a corporate entity.
Yes. I'm with you and Jay. I'm surprised this hasn't happened before.
Yeah, to me, it's just a no-brainer because you have so many CEOs who are alumni or founders of big companies who are alumni of certain places. You would think you can start giving money to your, your alma mater or your state school.
Especially in today's world of just overall professional athletics, where we've seen corporate, I won't say infiltration, but corporate relationships expand onto jerseys, uniform patches. Obviously, we've been naming stadiums for a long time, field logos. I was watching the NHL last night, and they have logos on the ice. You know what I mean? Like Chipotle on the ice last night. You know what I mean? So
the whole
those
world's
kind of
NASCAR,
things.
right?
Yeah, exactly. So when I was learning about NIL years and years ago, that's what I kind of envisioned it was going to be. Like, okay, Firehouse Subs wants to be the official partner of South Carolina athletics, so they're going to get a patch on the jersey, and they're going to have logo placement in the stadium, and they're going to be able to allocate so many amounts of dollars to each sport and all that kind of stuff, and that's where these players are going to get money from. I never envisioned it being like, okay, well, you got to crowd fund from all of your fan base and alumni to then pay the players.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was just like, to me, it's a no-brainer to make corporate partnerships.
Sure.
And I think, and again, I'm no genius when it comes to this kind of thing, but I'm figuring you can find a way to make that a tax write-off if it's a donation to a collective and a nonprofit. Isn't that a tax write-off?
I believe so. And also consider this, too. We talk about this all the time. The passion for college sports runs far deeper than the professional sports.
Right.
That, yes, we have diehard, passionate fans of professional teams, but it's different in college. And I would just imagine the relationship you have with a sponsor of your university's team would be far deeper than one you have with your professional team. Again, if Firehouse Subs becomes the official sub sandwich of Gamecock Athletics, I imagine their sales around here would skyrocket because people say, hey, they are funding the athletes that I love watching for my school. I'm going to give back to them now.
Yeah, I mean, and so you start looking at the Fortune 500 companies in your state or the big companies in your state, or you look for decent-sized companies who are generating a lot of revenue, maybe whose CEO or VP or EVP went to your school.
Yeah.
And you start reaching out to them, and I'm guessing if they donate to the university's NIL, because that's where this is all going anyway, before it's all said and done, that should be maybe a tax write-off too, because it's quote-unquote a donation. I'm sure there's a way to weasel this so the company can get the benefit of a donation for a tax write-off. So I just don't – I'm surprised this hasn't happened to this level yet.
Right.
But I'm telling you now, if I'm the Garner Trust, you know what I'm doing.
Oh, well, as we've seen, everything's a copycat when it comes to this kind of stuff. So more schools are going to be looking into this exact thing.
Yeah, so Memphis, and this helps Memphis. If we circle back, not that we care about Memphis University here, but now you get more NIL money to be able to start, upping your game in regard to talent acquisition. And also, there's another thing I saw on here as well. Yes, the campaign includes a 50% match clause. University plans to start a campaign to raise an additional $2.5 million per year. So that's where this whole thing's going. And Tennessee obviously has really good NIL laws that are very university friendly. Of course, they did it for Tennessee, but Memphis is going to benefit.
Well,
obviously.
And that was also one of the caveats to why the NCAA lost in court once again because of Tennessee's NIL laws. So I talk about unintended consequences a lot of the time. What they were doing to benefit the University of Tennessee has opened this door for a place like Memphis.
Yeah. So, again, something that obviously the folks at the collectives here in South Carolina and the university have to take a look at as you're moving forward to figure out how you can again, generate the most NIL dough, be able to go get some players. All right. Firehouse Subtext, the hour is coming up, 803-404-6100, as we roll football here in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll get that text next here on the Halftime Show on A Game. All right, time to fire up the old text line, 803-446-100. Get our Firehouse subtext of the hour. What do you got there, Tyler?
So we were talking about those drills that you hated running as a kid playing football. You mentioned the one where everyone circles around you. Beth from Lamar weighs in. I believe that's called Bull in the Ring.
That's it. I blanked on it. Yes, it's awful. I think I hated that one worse than Oklahoma. I think. So I was the lightest kid on the team every year.
Oh, you've probably getting knocked around all over the
I
place.
got the snot knocked out of me.
Now, was that one of the ones from the I'm punishing everyone thing?
No, because that was punishment enough.
Okay, that's fair.
And it was an old school drill again. This is going to make you better for this reason or that reason, but the drill was just awful.
Yeah.
Those two drills are terrible. Thank you, Texter. I totally forgotten Bull in the Ring. I was blanking. I think I put the name of it out of my mind because I hated the drill so
Yeah,
bad.
you relapse the memory.
Awful. Just awful. I get run over that Oklahoma drill all the time.
Yeah.
I just get blasted into the parking lot. Weigh like 61 pounds. God. It's like in the movie The Blind Side where, Michael Orr, blocks the guy into the dumpster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was me every practice. I was the guy flying in the dumpster. All right, so we appreciate that on the text line, 803-404-6100. Yeah, I mean, a lot of those drills, and they don't use them that much anymore. You don't hear about them like you used to. It's still some old school guys hold on to them. But
I imagine Oklahoma led to a few concussions.
you think? It's miserable drill. Maybe that's why I am the way I am. Too many Oklahoma drills.
Coach, I think I hit my head. What's your name? I don't know. You're fine. Get
Close
back out
enough,
there.
boy. How many fingers am I holding up? A 72. Hey, you got it right, boy. Get
Hey.
on back out there.
Proud of you for counting that high.
All right. Like we said, we always appreciate the text. 803-446-100 Firehouse subtext of the hour. Mike, you have a 2:15 from Gamecock Central. We're going to talk some spring game with Mike coming up here in just a little bit. All right, let's spin back. Clayton White, a little bit more defensive coordinator sound from Clayton. Obviously, we look at quarterback. Okay, there's a competition there, even though we all feel like it's going to be Lenore Sellers.
Yeah.
The corner gig opposite of O.D. Fortune, we really don't know at this point. So you got to ask Clayton White. Clayton, what about the corner competition? So here's Clayton White, Cut 16, Tyler, talking about the battle for starting corner spot number 2.
Yeah, right now, I think those guys are, kind of like Coach Grayer would say, you want to have, not so many highs and lows. I think those guys have done a great job of competing the right way. We've let all of them run with the ones and twos. We let all those guys get the same amount of reps. And I think all three of them have done a great job. I think we really like that room and that competition. And it's still, I think it'll be one of those things where we'll keep evaluating and keep it moving. And, obviously Judge played more snaps last season, so he has a little bit more experience. Emery's an older guy who's matured a lot. He's kind of put his track shoes up. They're hanging on the power lines right now. So it's good, and I think he has focused and he's shown he's taken the next step. I think Emery made the biggest jump in regards of where he was, to me in my mind. And Vakari makes plays all the time, and Judges has the experience, so it's a good group.
That's interesting that Emery's made the biggest jump. Because, Vakari Swain came in very raw.
Yep.
And is in the competition, but you didn't hear that Vakari Swain made the biggest jump.
Right.
Emery Floyd did after he hung up his track shoes.
Yeah, I'm singularly focused on football now. Obviously, has the athleticism, and again, when you talk about what perhaps the most open position on this team, where I don't think anybody really had a clear-cut advantage going in, it's that second corner spot.
Yeah, and it feels like Judge Collier right now, because again he got run last year, he got snaps, he got reps, so a little bit ahead of the curve. And he's got long arms, he can make plays. I mean, he might not be as fast as Floyd or Swain.
Sure.
But so we'll see how it shakes out. You feel like Collier might be a little bit ahead of everybody else right now, but got a long way to go, Tyler.
Yeah.
It's got a long way to go.
And again, this is something else that we've talked about. If you come away from spring, maybe not exactly knowing, and you see somebody in the transfer portal that's a 3-year starter that has that covering ability, maybe you go out and get that guy.
Yeah. I have been, and we've talked about this over and over on the show, I've been very surprised how they have not looked at corner in the transfer portal. I mean, that's a good thing because they like their guys,
Sure,
obviously.
and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's
but
nothing wrong with it.
If you have that,
I know.
best guy available and you can get him, why wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, or at least kick the tires on a guy with experience who can cover. Because, again, we circle back to last year, one of the biggest problems was covering the slot. And you're asking safeties to cover the slot, and they were scuffling. Year before, you had 3 legit corners, and one would go down and cover the slot. We all talk about Cam Smith's work against Tennessee. So, and he was in the slot that day. So it's one of those things where that was a problem last year. Now, maybe Kilgore's gotten better in coverage. We'll see. But it would be nice to have another more experienced type corner who, if you need somebody to drop down the slot, they can cover. So, all right, one other one. We'll go back to Dow Loggins on the offensive side of the ball. And this is interesting. It kind of leads. No, let's just go with this. Cut 8. Right now, Dow Loggins' assessment of Lenore Sellers so far through the spring. Again, cut 8, Dow talking about Sellers.
It's a lot of fun to coach him because he's so positive. He doesn't have bad days. I tell him he's a robot all the time, but it's also one of his best characteristics. He's very consistent. He has gotten better every day. He learns from his mistakes. I think the best thing about Lenore, outside the talent, all that other stuff, is most of the time, he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And Coach Parcells used to say dumb players do dumb things. Smart players seldomly do dumb things. He seldomly does dumb things and takes care of the football. And he's still young. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's a redshirt freshman. Got to play a little bit last year, which obviously helped. And it's his second year in the system. But the system won't be the same. You guys know it. I know it. He knows it. We're going to evolve it to fit our players, whether it's Lenore or Robbie or Dante or Luke Doty or Davis, whoever the quarterback is. It's going to change. It won't look the same as it did last year because we built that thing to fit Spencer, and now we'll change it to fit whoever the quarterback is this year. But he's been solid. I mean, the kid is very consistent.
So, I mean, that's a good thing, right? I mean, that's really what you want. A dude that's not too high, not too low, is really positive. Those are all good things. None of that's bad at all. And because you are going to have good days and bad days as a quarterback. I mean, obviously you want less bad than good, but you want to be positive. And because part of what the quarterback has evolved to, Tyler, is a leader.
Yeah.
And everybody leads in different ways. And, some guys, like what Dal was just talking about, incredibly positive no matter what, right? Constantly positivity, positivity, positivity. You don't want to be phony, but if you are sincerely positive all the time, that's a good form of leadership. So that all sounds good with those things. And, what you want to hear Dal say, though, is, wow, the plays he's making, oh, my God. But, he's stuck with what he's like off the field with what he does. And all this stuff's very important.
And as much as Dal likes to talk, he's not going to give away more than he has to.
I know.
And that's okay.
But there's a skill in being able to be interesting when you're talking and not giving anything away. All right, so that was football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We'll come back. Carolina, a big series in baseball starting tonight against Arkansas. We'll hear from Mark Kingston talking about his rotation that is coming up on the halftime show. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head as we roll till 3. Then the postgame show, Elijah holding down the Fort. Jay taking a day off. He'll be back on Monday. And Elijah will be out Monday and Tuesday. So Jay will be in here on Monday and Tuesday. We're going to shuffle things up, have a little fun on Monday. We think we're going to have possibly our buddy Dimitri Ravenos host with Tyler noon to 3, and then I'll bum around with Jay 3 to 6 on Monday, possibly. We're working on it.
By the way,
There you go.
okay, there we go.
You're good.
By the way, have you ever seen a picture of Dimitri with hair? Because he just shared one on Twitter.
Really? No,
Yeah,
I've
from
never
when-
seen a picture of Dimitri with hair.
I'm assuming this was from high school prom.
Really?
Yeah, you got to check it out.
I got to check this out. Okay, I'll have to look at that. 'Cause I've never seen Dimitri with hair. But Dimitri's never
nor
seen
have I.
me with hair. So anyway,
Well, I mean, you're like halfway there.
I got a little more hair than
You know
Dimitri.
what? I will say the picture you showed me of your long hair back in the day, I was like, that's not you. Who's that guy? Did you steal this photo from
Yeah.
someone?
Did you Photoshop hair on your head? Did you have a comb over when you were 12? My dad had a comb over when he was 12. I thought I was going to lose my hair at like 16. I made it to 40 feeling pretty good. Going, yeah.
And then it all just.
And then it all went to hell. Yeah, exactly. I have to look at Dimitri, his picture. We had Dimitri, we're hoping we'll be able to hang out. We're still working on it, but hopefully Dimitri will be able to host with Tyler noon to 3 on Monday. Then I'll hang out with Jay and we'll recreate the old days for a few hours on Monday. And then everybody will be back together on Wednesday here on the game. All right. Real fast, Mark Kingston, Carolina calls the other night. We haven't had a chance to get to a lot of this. We've been so busy with spring game and things of that nature. South Carolina, of course, big 3-game series with Arkansas at Founders, number 2 ranked team in the country. The Razorbacks coming in. Last time South Carolina had a team this highly ranked, well, no, I shouldn't say the last time. But one of the 2 times they had a team come in so highly ranked previously, they swept Vandy. Lost 2 out of 3 to A&M, but swept Vandy. So, third opportunity to take on a highly ranked team here at home. The rotation is going to be tweaked. Here is Mark Kingston, Gamecocks head coach, talking about Eli Jones and where he's going to start this weekend.
Talking about this for a few weeks now. Eli has been the pitcher that gives us the most length on the weekends of all our starters, and genuinely you would like to have that in the middle game so that your bullpen can be really good on Friday, have a day off, and then go on Sunday. So it's something we've been talking about. We have a lot of respect for Hagen Smith, but that's not why this decision was made. We made it because we think it's the best use of our resources that hopefully will help us win the most amount of games.
I get that, right? I mean, the way you're setting it up kind of gives you flexibility on both sides, right?
Yeah, so theoretically, you're setting this up because again, Roman Kimball is going to get the start coming up tonight, where Eli Jones routinely is going 5 to 6 innings deep in every one of his starts, minus the one against A&M a couple weeks ago. So theoretically, you're not having to use a lot of guys out of the bullpen in that second game if Eli Jones is starting, which gives you more options for whoever your third game starter is going to be. And listening to our guy Jack Belcher, he believes that's a mix of Ty Good, Tyler Pitzer, and potentially Matthew Becker.
And also, the first game, too, you might be able to use another arm or 2 out of the pen because Eli Jones is giving you length in game 2.
Right.
So both ends, it kind of helps you out flexibility-wise and usage-wise with your pen.
And again, you've got a lot of arms that are available. It's not like you're decimated by injuries or anything like that. So you have a lot of options, but I agree with Coach Kingston. I think this is a smart way to go about this weekend, and that sets you up for your best potential use of pitchers coming up on Sunday and what could very well be a rubber matchup by then.
Hey, John Whittle from Big Spur, we had him on at 12:30 this afternoon, and John said something we've kind of talked about as well, that it seems like every pitcher's throwing better out of the pen than when they start.
Yeah, pretty much, because Kimball was in the weekend rotation back at the start of conference play, had that rough outing against Ole Miss, and then I think it was the Bama series that he missed because he had to go meet with a sports psychologist because he just wasn't in a right frame of mind. And since he's come back in the pen, he's been pretty effective.
And now you hope that he can take that new mindset and mentality and become a starter. Because if he can at least find another starter to go with Eli Jones,
sure,
then you can do Johnny Bullpen or All Pen or whatever you want to call it on Sunday.
And South Carolina has survived up to this point by having the one guarantee, that being Eli Jones, and then mixing and matching the other 2 days. When you get close to the end of the regular season, especially if you're shaping up to be in the postseason, you got to figure that out.
Yeah, you're kind of, you're kind of lighting the match near the gasoline.
Yeah.
You just really are. And you can get one other starter. it just will help you in leaps and bounds. I mean, if you have to go through the year having that one that's going to be a bullpen deal, or using like the Tampa Bay Rays in the majors, have an opener and just go from there.
And there is one significant injury to the pitching staff right now, that being Eddie Copper.
That hurt.
Had solidified himself as your midweek guy. And again, guy was coming as a true freshman, wasn't going to factor in the weekend rotation anyway, but comes in pitching well in the midweek, somebody that you use out of the bullpen as well. Now he's gone, so where the other night you're having to start Tyler Pitzer, and Pitzer went 2 1/3 in that game, and as soon as things started trending the wrong direction, they took him out, put somebody else in, so he still had a fresh enough arm for this weekend.
Well, that's the other part, too, is you're going to have to play the mix and match game in the midweek.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing the mix and match 3 out of your 4 games, it's tough.
That is not a recipe for long-term success.
No, and it's interesting, and I think we talked about this yesterday, and we also yipped about it with Whittle, is you watch this team, the eye test, and then you look at their record and you go, really, they're that good?
Yeah.
Are they that good?
When I saw there were 15 in the RPI, I was like,
yeah.
Really?
I know. You're like, wait a minute, I've been watching this, and they're solid, but they're not that good, you don't think. But to their credit, to the coaching staff and the players' credit, they found ways to, navigate all this stuff, not having a real rotation, struggling so much with runners in scoring position. They're still finding a way to be successful. And really, the record is a lot better than you think it would be where they're at this year with still so many question marks. So.
Sure, absolutely.
All right, and here's Coach Kingston talking about, now, the reason, again, they're starting Eli Jones is not to, hide him away from Hagen Smith. That's not it. We just heard why Coach wants to move Eli Jones. But here's Mark Kingston talking about that Hagen Smith fellow, the lefty, the excellent lefty starter for Arkansas.
I think last weekend showed what we're capable of. We scored 28 runs on the road at Florida, so I think that shows what we're capable of. Hagen Smith probably will be the first pitcher off the board in this year's Major League Draft, so I look at that as a tremendous challenge, and I think our guys do as well. Paul Skeens came in here last year with all the same notoriety, so I think it's a great challenge. That's why the SEC is so exciting, because you get opportunities to play against the best. He clearly is one of the best, and I think our guys will be excited for the challenge.
Smith has been filthy all year, but I will say this: he ain't Skeens.
He is not.
No disrespect to Smith, he's not Paul Skeens. I mean, Skeens is as good as Smith is, and Smith will be a top 10 pick in the MLB draft.
Right.
Major League scouts and evaluators and front offices do not put Smith up in that level a prospect as Skeens. Doesn't mean he's not a hell of a college pitcher. He is. There are folks who will take the Wake Forest ace ahead of Smith. But Smith's numbers are vile. I mean, he's got more strikeouts, like Mark said, more strikeouts than hits given up.
Yeah, more strikeouts than hits given up. Out of everybody in the top 10 of the country, he is the only one with under 50 innings pitched to have 80 or more strikeouts this season.
He's having a heck of a year.
He's giving up less than half of a hit per inning.
How disgusting is that? No, speaking of Skeens, he's killing AAA.
Oh, yeah, he was on the Pat McAfee show earlier.
By the way, ditch the mustache, bro.
I will, hey, listen, he's dating Livy Dunn.
No.
If she likes the mustache, keep the mustache.
Okay, here's what it is. Ready? Here it is. All right. If Paul Skeens was working down the road here at the Amoco with that mustache, would she be interested?
No, I don't think so.
No. Had nothing to do with the mustache about Paul Skeens. Just saying.
That is a good point.
But Skeens has been phenomenal in AAA.
Yeah.
He will be in the majors this year at some point because he's dominant right now in AAA.
Yeah. And quickly on that aside, he mentioned, Coach Kingston brought that up, and rightfully so. But when you actually go back and remember that series against LSU last year, Skeens was limited because of the rain delay after the third inning. Through 3 innings, yes, he gave up the home run to Petrie. Wimmer also hit a home run off him, which he hadn't given up that many at that point in the season. He still struck out 8 guys in 3 innings.
Yeah,
so he wasn't exactly having an off night.
He wasn't getting killed, but he did give up some stuff he typically doesn't. And remember, that series was they split the two games, and really, arguably, they're the best two teams in America at that point. That's before South Carolina totally got ravaged by injuries.
Right.
That was a fun couple games, and it should be pretty electric this weekend over at Founders with Arkansas coming in.
Right.
So, and again, that's 6:45 tonight, pregame, 7 o'clock first pitch with South Carolina and Arkansas, and you can hear it right here on the Game in Columbia and on the Game in Myrtle Beach. All right, we'll get our buddy Mike Uva coming in here from Gamecock Central. We're going to talk spring game. As we've been looking at a bunch of different directions, I think I heard you talk about the guy you want to see,
Yes.
Demetrius Knight,
Correct.
which is not a bad choice of who you want to see. That's pretty good.
I do my research.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, I guess when you guys were, and they brought up one of the guys, I'm interested in seeing Jared Brown.
They had the clip the other day of Sellers throwing to him at practice, and Sellers even said that he thought that was his best play of spring so far. So it sounds like those two guys got some good chemistry with each other.
And because Brown is he's a make you miss kind of guy with the ball in his hands. And look, Juju McDowell was that guy in theory, but Juju's smaller than Brown.
Right.
So Brown's a little bit bigger. I mean, and most of his yardage last year was yak. Runs short routes at Coastal. They got him the ball in space, and he would just make stuff happen. So he'll be fun to watch. And I want to watch all the corners across from Fortune and just see how that goes. So, and of course, we're all going to watch the offensive line because that's what we do. That's what we do. We watch the offensive line.
Well, hopefully, talking about you can never be too balanced. Hopefully, we're talking about what's wrong with our defensive line coming away from Saturday.
Right.
Because that means the offensive line will have done their job.
Exactly. So we got to worry about the offensive line now, the defensive line now. Why? Offensive line road graded those dudes.
Yeah, please. I'll take that.
All right, Mike Uva, Gamecock Central. We're going to talk spring game next with our buddy Mike. That is on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on the Game.
We got better. It's like one more opportunity to get better, make sure that we've improved in an area that we weren't great at on Tuesday, Thursday. We've got a small practice tomorrow as well. But that's really what we're looking at is like the individual steps to get better. And like this is the ultimate team sport, but there is an individual. The only way to make the team better is improve yourself and making sure that each guy is getting a little bit better than they were the day before.
There's Dal Loggins speaking to the media yesterday, talking about kind of like goals for the spring game. Just get better. There you go. That's simple. That's from, we found out the big nickname is D-Lo.
Well, we've known that.
Yeah, but you think he's down with being called D-Lo?
I think he's very down with that.
You think so?
See, that cuts down on the amount of time you have to say his name, so there's more time for football.
Is that what you think? More time for watching film?
He's a quintessential football guy.
All right, let's get our buddy Mike Uven here, Gamecock Central. What's your cool nickname over at Gamecock Central?
To go ask my college teammates. They probably call me some names that you can't say on the radio. Back in college, my nickname was the U, and everyone would throw up like the Miami Hurricane U if I made a big play. That was my nickname.
No, that would actually isn't bad.
And Uva also has a unique last name where people think he covers the University of Virginia.
But I was definitely not smart enough to go to Virginia. I worked at Watch Fox, like half the station thought I went there. I'm like, no shot. No disrespect to Assumption. I mean, beautiful campus. Brian Kelly, I'm sure he was all straight A's when he was a Hound.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. All right, man, here we go with another spring game. You've been around a bunch of these even before, South Carolina. When you get ready to start focusing on this thing, what runs through your head for a spring game?
I think first and foremost, not to get so caught up, and I wrote a little bit about this on Gamecock Central on yesterday, but I think not to get so caught up about what we're seeing schematically and more so, dealing with, okay, how are, especially the new faces with the transfer portal, freshmen, sophomores even, guys that are competing to provide depth. How do those guys look? How do guys look that are competing for starting spots? So, again, it's more so the execution. How do guys handle the pressure? Obviously, they're not playing in front of 77 to 80,000 at Williams-Bright Stadium, but there is something to be said about playing in front of 20, 30, 40,000 people, depending on how many people are there tomorrow, and knowing that, hey, I have to step up. If I don't do my job, it's not like I'm at practice anymore. My coach is just going to chew me out. Everyone in the stadium's going to see it.
Mike Uva hanging out with us from Gamecock Central, talking spring game on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head on the game. All right, so what you've heard, what little you've gotten a chance to see, what are your thoughts on the whole QB room as we move into the spring game?
I mean, I'm under the impression that it's Lenore's job to lose. And I think we've all had that even before spring ball started. But more than anything, it's just making sure that this kid stays honest. And it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. I've brought this up a couple times. I think back to the 2020 season. Ryan Helinski is coming off playing the majority of the 2019 season after Jake Bentley went through his injury. And Helinski, he assumed that he was going to be the starting quarterback, just like a lot of us. And obviously there were some changes from a coaching staff standpoint. Mike Bobo comes in. He's the new offensive coordinator. Colin Hill comes from Colorado State along with Bobo, and he eventually became the starting quarterback. But I bring that up to say that you need to challenge a young quarterback. And I'm not saying Sellers and Helinski from a mindset standpoint. I'm not saying from a talent standpoint that's similar or the same by any means. But the point being is you always have to challenge and make things uncomfortable for a young quarterback in the sense of not letting them think, hey, you're going to be the guy. Now, again, we heard Dal Loggins talk about it yesterday. At some point, the players in that room, they know who the starting quarterback is going to be, sometimes even before the coaching staff does, just because they have a feel of it. But just continuing to put that pressure on, and I want to see what Robbie Ashford can do tomorrow. I want to see him step up just because it will make, if Lenore Sellers is as good as a lot of us expect him to be, it should only bring out the best in him if Robbie goes out there and has a great game tomorrow.
Outside of the quarterback spot, a lot of new faces in a lot of different spots across this team. If you had to pick out one player in particular that you are most looking forward to seeing in action tomorrow night, who's it going to be?
We were talking about it yesterday, Tyler. I think Judge Collins, just because I want to see how he can respond, knowing that he has a golden opportunity to be that other starting cornerback across from O.D. Fortune. And look, that's not overlooking guys like Bakari Swain, Emery Floyd, David Spalding, and the guys that are competing in that cornerback room. But you would assume Judge, based off of having that experience last year, had to start in 2 games last season, he's someone that should be able to take that baton and run with it, knowing that Marcellus Dial isn't there anymore. So I want to see how he responds in a game like this. I expect the defensive backs to get tested a lot. So he's going to have an opportunity to be able to make some plays, and it's not just making plays in coverage, but it's little things. It's coming off blocks when there's a screen or a short pass, being able to make a tackle, run fits, all those little things. So maybe that's the former cornerback in me, but I'm just very eager to see what he can do because I'm very excited about what this defense could be ultimately. But that's the spot, though, I feel like USC's really trying to address more than anything this spring.
You got any eligibility left? I mean, they need a corner.
Yeah, if they want to roast it. I mean, the hips don't open up the same way they used to. Plus, I was never blessed with the friggin' size. I don't know if you know that about me.
What?
Well,
wait a minute. You?
No, well, here's the thing. From watching Rudy,
like
it doesn't
Rudy.
matter how big you are as long as your heart's in it, right?
Well, my dad would have to stuff quarter rolls in me just to make the weight limit in Top Water. So, those days, you realize once you coach level, that sounds great until you start breaking bones in every spot on your body. And you realize, like, all right, now I got to be a little bit quicker, faster, stronger, and, I got to make up for the fact of not having the size. But, look, there's guys on this team that are undersized, and they're going to be looking to perform. I think wide receiver is certainly one of those positions. Gage Laverdine's a player that I'm really looking forward to seeing because we've heard so much about him to a point where it's kind of like we have a restaurant promote a new sandwich or a meal, and you keep hearing about it over and over and over, like we've heard from other players and the coaching staff throughout the spring. I want to see what all the hype is about with Gage. Certainly we know how talented he is based on what he did at Miami of Ohio, but I want to see what he does in a Gamecock uniform tomorrow.
All right, last thing for you, Mike. You have a Gamecock Central. Not specifically for the spring game, but as you look at this roster moving forward, and obviously the transfer portal is open, if you can bring in one position in the portal, which one are you bringing in?
I'd probably say wide receiver for 2 reasons. And Beamer kind of hit on it the other day. One, from a scholarship standpoint, they are under the amount of players that they would like to have in that room. Now, overall, they have 85 scholarships right now at that mark. They're projected to have 85 for the fall right now. I've mentioned this before, kind of like the salary cap in the NFL. The cap is crap. I say the same deal with scholarships at this time of the year. You can figure things out. You have plenty to figure things out come fall time. So I think that's the position more than anything, but obviously it has to be a good fit. I'd like to see them bring in someone that's a little bit taller, but at the end of the day, I feel like this offense, based on the skill set in the back room, especially if they can get healthy by fall camp, on top of what they have in that wide receiver room, I think they're going to be using their speed more than anything this year. But we'll see. Would like to bring in a guy that's a little bit taller. Offensive line's another position that they could bring, and certainly I wouldn't rule out the possibility of looking at that corner spot, especially if they can bring a veteran guy in to push the younger guys, as well as try to, fill out the rest of that defense. Like, again, I think that the defense could be really talented this year based on what they brought in at the linebacker core and at the defensive line group.
Always good yapping with you, my friend. I noticed you got the facial hair back. Just saying.
Yeah, we'll see how long that stays. We'll see. Brooke might be in the transfer portal if it stays on in the salon. So we'll see.
Hey, good hanging out with you, bud. We'll bug you again like next week or something.
All right. Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, man. It's Mike Uva, Gamecock Central. Girlfriend might go in the transfer portal, that facial hair, man.
Yeah,
Well, if he was making the money Paul Skeens was, she wouldn't care about facial hair.
Yeah, that might be a different conversation. I think Skeens is doing better than all of us put together right now.
You're not saying Mike's not, having a good life over Gamecock Central. That's just, Paul Skeens' money's different money. Just saying.
I still think he's got the eligibility. He should give it a shot. You never know. Well,
he was great.
The worst they can say is no, right?
The best part of it is you guys see I'm not that tall.
It's the heart.
That's right.
Can't you imagine an entire stadium of people chanting, Uva, Uva?
That would be kind of cool.
See?
I liked his nickname, too, the U. That was kind of a good nickname.
Works.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we'll get back in here because today is April 20th or April 19th. which obviously is the greatest day in the history of the world. Sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. That is next on the halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head here on the game. Greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK here on the Halftime Show. We appreciate you listening, whether you're here in Columbia, in Florence, or Myrtle Beach. Thanks a lot for hanging. This day in 2021, San Jose Sharks forward Patrick Marleau breaks Gordie Howe's NHL record for most games played. Hadn't been good last couple of years for old Gordo's records.
No, they've been falling a little bit.
Just yesterday, was it, that Jaromir Jagr at age 52 took the ice in Czechoslovakian league? He's an owner. He's a part owner of the team, I believe. So Jaromir Jagr, yeah, here it is. Czech Republic, yeah. Jagr jumped on the ice for the first time since turning 52 and became the oldest player ever to play in a professional game, passing Gordie Howe, who did it when he was 52. Here's the thing about Gordie Howe. So his final NHL game was in 1980. He was 52 years old, 11 days when he played in 1980. Later, he skated a single shift for the Detroit Vipers in the International Hockey League. In 1997, he was age 69.
Oh, my God.
Gordie Howe, man. He played with his kids in the World Hockey League. I remember that.
Yeah, I remember hearing something about him being old enough to play with his own kids. There is, well, I mean, LeBron is almost able to do it with his son, but there are very few professional sports where that's even a possibility.
Right. So, I mean, Gordie Howe, obviously people think he was the greatest all-around player in the history of hockey, but also, dude was going on the ice when he was in his 50s and 60s. All right, this day in 1998, the San Antonio Spurs, they beat the Denver Nuggets to set an NBA record for largest single-season turnaround. The year before, the Spurs had won 20 games, and then they improved 36 wins to 56. They added some young guy named Tim Duncan.
It's pretty good.
Might have heard of him. 1997 in the NFL draft, Ohio State offensive lineman Orlando Pace, picked first overall by the then St. Louis Rams. Of course, Pace went on to a Hall of Fame career.
Those are the drafts that don't create the same excitement when you're drafting offensive linemen at number one. Mm-hmm. Even despite how good they may end up being, there's just something about like a non-skill position player or somebody that's like, not going to wreak havoc like a Jadeveon Clowney did in his time at college. It's just it's kind of an underwhelming start to the draft.
Yeah, because an offensive lineman, look, when you got a quarterback, because they're always typically quarterbacks now, or it's an edge pass rusher or, something like that, you can see some really cool, like, highlights, right? Quarterbacks making plays, the edge pass rushers knocking the snot out of a quarterback, the offensive lineman, hey, look at that block.
Look at his footwork.
Wow. His hand placement, that's special. So, and Orlando Pace, again, goes on to have a Hall of Fame career, but you're right. Just not the same juice. When Eric Fisher got picked by the Chiefs, almost like a decade ago, I guess it was, around. And first of all, not many people thought he should have been the number one pick overall. Because number one pick overall, he went on to he's had a solid NFL career, but yeah. So you draft a guy, I believe Fisher also was from a MAC school.
Let's see.
So that makes it even.
Yeah, I went to Central Michigan.
Yeah, makes it even more exciting. So.
Oh, joy. An offensive lineman I've never heard of.
Yes, from a school I've never heard of for a lot of people. All right, on this day in 1991, Evander Holyfield retains his heavyweight title with a unanimous 12-round decision over 42-year-old George Foreman. In 1986, Michael Spinks wins a split decision against Larry Holmes to hold on to his heavyweight title in Vegas. Again, Larry was pretty old when Holmes fought Michael Spinks. So, that's when everything was a little weird in the heavyweight division. No offense to Michael Spinks, he really wasn't a heavyweight. He was like a light heavyweight, beefed up, just like Evander Holyfield.
Yeah.
It was just an odd time in the world of boxing.
So you're just talking about he was of smaller stature, just with a lot of muscle?
Yeah, it's just, you go up weight class, you put on some pounds just to get up into the weight. You're probably you're at the light end of the weight class.
Okay.
Because you don't want to lose speed or quickness. You might add a few pounds, maybe a little more power. But it's very, very few light heavyweights have been able to go up to heavyweight and be successful. It's very difficult if you have a really good heavyweight division at the time.
Right. That's kind of the funny thing, the opposite difference between like boxing and amateur wrestling is in amateur wrestling, you always want to be going down instead of up. Like you're routinely trying to wrestle lighter weights and go down in a weight division, which again, they're all equally balanced, unlike boxing where the heavyweight is obviously the upper echelon of it, but it's kind of funny the difference in dynamic between those two. Because I was always cutting weight, trying to wrestle lighter.
Well, I'm going to tell you, wrestling is nuts. Like real, not WWE or whatever.
It's amateur wrestling.
Amateur
Olympic
wrestling. I had buddies of mine who wrestled in high school, and they're always cutting weight.
Yep.
Like they go 3 days eating tree bark.
Yep.
I mean, it's just, I've never been in line for lunch and be like, I'm getting in line to get my steak sub and fries and everything. Dave, what are you having? Orange.
Yeah.
It's like cutting weight.
My dad and I had a thing at the end of every wrestling season. As soon as we left that last tournament on the way home, we'd stop at like KFC or Burger King or somewhere like there because I would have eaten nothing good over the course of the past 3 months trying to maintain my weight. It's like, all right, here's your reward.
I could never, there's many reasons I would never want to be a wrestler, but that's one of the big ones is that cutting weight mess.
Yeah.
And you did it. You're miserable.
Yeah. Oh, well.
You're miserable.
There was one practice where I knew I had to cut weight for the tournament either the next day or 2 days from then. I was wearing gym shorts. I was wearing long socks. I was wearing, I think, 3 pairs of sweatpants, a T-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a sweater, and then an additional hoodie over my head. Like I have the hood over my head, and we were just running like sprints back and forth. And I felt like I was dying.
Well, did you? I don't know if by the time you started doing it, maybe they got rid of the old school garbage bag.
Solar suits.
Yes.
Those became outlawed by the time I was in high school.
Oh, really?
And they weren't outlawed if you didn't get caught.
I remember the old school garbage bag, which became the solar suit.
You don't realize that if you put a garbage bag on your body, you will sweat 10 times faster.
I remember I used to play pickup ball when I was like teenager.
Yeah.
And there was an older dude who always wore a garbage bag.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to guard him.
Yeah.
Because all he was doing was what? Sweating. And you know what he smelled? Didn't smell very good.
Why was he wearing a garbage bag for that?
He was always trying to lose weight. And I think he got to the point where he was wearing it because he knew nobody would go near him.
Oh, well, that's smart.
So then he would get some easy hoops because nobody wanted to guard him.
Yeah.
Because he stunk and he smelled and he was covered in sweat and he'd lean on you because he played down low and he'd get covered in his sweat. And he'd be like, ew.
And trying to get that off after you sweat, it's like peeling it off.
Oh, I can believe it.
It just sticks to your body.
Yeah.
Those are not legal anymore.
I can see why. Plus, I'm guessing bad things happen to people who would wear those.
Well, and that's the thing, too. And if you look at me, I'm a relatively skinny person.
You're a brawny, fat, roly-poly guy.
I was not technically allowed to cut weight because of my body fat percentage. I had to get, my junior year of high school, I had to get doctor's permission. Like, I had to get a signed-off form for them to allow me to wrestle because my body fat composition was so low.
That's wild. All right, greatest day in the history of the world, sponsored by 1-800-GOT-JUNK. Real quick, we have not delved into this. John Whittle brought it up a little bit when we yipped with him in the 12 o'clock hour from the Big Spur. Okay, so we see, Cam Scott showing up at South Carolina. Scott's not a point guard. He's a 2-guard. Right now, South Carolina needs to replace Talon Cooper, and they need to get a big who is athletic, rim protector, rebounder. That's kind of the 2 big things. You got 2 Scullies left.
Right.
One of the players that they're focusing on point guard wise, Dakota LeFew from Mount St. Mary's, played in the MAAC, the other MAC, and again that's going from mid-major to the SEC if you would get him. But Dakota, his top 6 are South Carolina, Syracuse, Georgia, Pitt, Villanova, Xavier. Dakota will take an official visit this weekend to South Carolina. More of a scorer than Cooper, average around 4 assists a game, 17 points. John talked about those assists. Turnover ratio is good. Just not, Cooper was your traditional pass-first point guard, which I love those guys.
Right.
Dakota LeFew is more, he also will look to score as well. So just a little different type, but we'll see how he would play out if he came to South Carolina as a point guard.
Yeah.
The other guy that has been in the crosshairs, so to speak, Nick Pringle, grew up in South Carolina, plays high school ball in South Carolina. School number 3 is Alabama. Really kind of got it going at the end of the year. He's 6'10". He is an athletic type rim protector. He scored a bit in the tournament. But he's another guy that South Carolina's focusing on. So those two really are the main ones, and that would fill your 1 and your 5. You've also got some other pieces in the backcourt coming back that could be combo types, but you don't have a true point. Morris is the closest thing you have to a true point guard.
Yeah, and like John Whittle said, you've seen the glimpses, but you've also seen some concerns with Yuga Sucka and what his potential is. So addressing that in the transfer portal would make a lot of sense. And again, those seem like viable options.
Yeah, I don't think you would be comfortable. No offense to Yuga Suck, I don't think you're comfortable with Yuga Suck being your projected starter going into the season.
Right.
He can develop more. Remember, last year they're going to redshirt him, and he did get some run. So those are the two that right now the Gamecocks are looking at the transfer portal and men's hoops for Lamont. All right, Firehouse Subtext, the hour is coming up as well as we get your thoughts, 803-404-6100. It is the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, rolling on your Friday here on The Game. I guess we're froze. We're frozen. We're frozen, right?
At the moment.
Okay, we'll just keep talking. We'll keep talking. I guess until something happens. Hopefully, it'll happen like really soon. All right, time to roll our Firehouse sub text of the hour and our text on 803-404-6100. So fire it up there, Tyler Head. What we got?
So as I figured when we were talking about drills and punishments and playing sports growing up, I figured we'd strike a nerve with some people. I got a couple people weighing in here. Yinny says bear crawls were the worst. And then Nameless Texter says, Oklahoma drill is stupid. If you're on your back, you're out of the play. That's dumb.
Bear crawls, yeah.
Well, we all did those. Did you ever have to do them across, like, the track at your high school where, like, just the gravel is digging into your hands?
Kills your hands. Yes. It's a miserable. It's funny, too. Now it's incorporated in some way, shape, or form in a lot of workouts.
Sure.
And when you see it, you're like, no, I'm good. I did that when I was younger.
Yeah, that flashback.
Yeah, just a bad flashback. And I think one of the reasons why the Oklahoma drill is going, to that point, it was just an old school toughness drill more than anything else.
How tough are you?
Yep, you get out there and
Coach, what fundamentals is this teaching me? Be tough.
It's just tough. It's a toughness drill. And I'm sure you'll have coaches who'll go, no, there's also all these other great things that, it's like, no, all I know is it was painful.
Yeah.
And that bull in the ring is, I think, even worse than the Oklahoma drill. That thing was, yeah. Anyway, it's just not good. Not good. But you get caught up in it because it's like the team, everybody's like, everybody gets into it, and you're just like, and you look at it later in life going, that was awful.
Yeah.
That was awful. I remember, and we didn't really have this, but I remember I heard stories from guys who, the workouts were so bad and the running was so bad that they just set up like garbage cans all over the field so you could barf.
Yeah.
And then keep going.
Totally.
Just keep going.
Puke and rally.
Yep, let's go. Come on, go on. All right, you got the chunks out, let's go.
From a baseball perspective, I don't think you realize the distance between foul poles until you're having to run pole after pole after pole. And there's always that one guy lagging behind in the back. It's like, till he catches up, y'all going to keep running.
And you hate him.
Yeah, you hate him.
You hate him. And he might, and here's the thing. Now, if he's not live, if he's really trying, he might just be slow.
Sure.
Because, look, I played baseball for years and years and years growing up. And speed and athleticism isn't as prevalent in baseball like it would be basketball or something, right?
Right.
So you have a few more dudes possibly who are going to be not running very fast.
Yeah.
And like the catcher.
Yeah.
Or your first baseman who's / a power hitter, right?
Yeah.
These guys aren't flying back and forth from foul pole to foul pole, but then because they're not running as fast as everybody else, all right, keep going.
We went to baseball camp the summer between my 9th and 10th grade year at Jacksonville State, and they had us like staying in dorms. And of course, we're teenage boys. We're going to do something stupid. It wasn't me. It was my teammates, not me.
It was never you.
It was never. I legitimately can say it was not me. In
you were going,
situation.
fellas. This is immature.
Yeah, I know. I just was.
We're not partaking.
I was completely away from them, but I knew what they were doing, and I knew we were going to get in trouble for it. And I think I was actually in the middle of taking a shower when our coach threw open the door and said, "Everybody outside in like 3 minutes." And I was like, "Oh no, this isn't good."
It's not good.
So I dry off, run outside, and again, a majority of my teammates have been doing something stupid. So we were being punished by running cycles on the staircase in front of this dormitory until about 2 a.m. And it was like, you're like, basically you're running in a big circle together up and down the stairs, up and down the steps. And you have these stations where you're doing like jumping jacks and push-ups and sit-ups and all that, and just keep going and keep going. The whole time he's yelling at us, of course. And he was like ex-military too. So that made the season worse. And there's like, again, we're in a college like campus, and there's people like driving by at 1:30 in the morning wondering what the heck we're doing. And I think I still have like shampoo in my hair or something like that. It was awful.
You're running in your towel.
Yeah, pretty much.
You're in towel and flip-flops.
And again, we had been out there playing baseball all day, so I had washed the sweat off. I'm like, gonna have to go do that again.
No showers. No one's taking a shower after this either.
Yeah, that was when I really started to resent a lot of my teammates. I feel like at that point in time.
Oh yeah, when you legitimately get yourself in trouble.
Sure.
See, I'll be honest with you. If I was part of your crew at that, I would have been one of the guys doing the stuff probably.
Yeah, probably.
But when you don't do anything, and everybody else sucks you into their trouble, your hate for everyone.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. I tell you, running the steps stunk anyway.
You don't think it's that bad till you're like 10 minutes in, not even 10 minutes in. Once it starts like your knees, you're like,
I remember our high school was the second biggest high school in Baltimore County.
Yeah.
Gigantic high school. And when you start baseball season, obviously you're starting when it's cold out.
Yeah.
So we do indoor workouts, and part of the indoor workout was running all the stairs in the school.
Oh, yeah.
But you got halfway and you were done.
Yeah.
And you had half more to go.
Well, the thing
it
is,
was brutal.
You probably came out of the gate sprinting like, oh, I can do this. I feel good. And
It's
then
only the stairs. I do this all the time.
you get a couple minutes in, you're like,
It's brutal.
man, running is hard enough. The stairs just add more to it.
Our school had 3 floors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was miserable. 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 It's like here, we're on the 19th floor upstairs in the office. Going down them isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to climb those.
Climb 19. Yeah. Running stairs sucks. Always.
But you know what's funny? I've always thought about it. It's like, if I was a coach, I'd probably do the same thing to my players.
Sure.
They did it to me. I'm going to do it to you.
Absolutely. Well, that's what it is. When I was
Exactly.
your age, let me tell you what Sarge did to me. I was in a towel running the stairs and flip-flops. I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the text. We appreciate it on the Firehouse subtext, the hour here, 803-404-6100. All right, so we have a spring game tomorrow. Obviously, we have coverage starting right after baseball. Chris Miller, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark, and myself will be rolling pregame, the broadcast, and the postgame. So we appreciate you jumping in. Sponsored by our buddies down the road here at Hilton Gardens. So that's coming up. And you want to see, again, your player that you want to see. Tyler moved.
Oh, sorry. Demetrius Knight.
There you go, Demetrius Knight. I want to watch the opposite corner thing from Odell Fortune play itself out with the different guys playing corner. Because that obviously is a huge competition. The only competition on the defensive side of the ball.
I mean, really, outside of quarterback, the only one where you don't definitively know who the starter is going to be, which most other spots you're rotating guys in anyway. But
so I'm just going to keep an eye there, and you want to see Demetrius Knight. And you can also say watching the edge, the play at the edge position.
All
will
those
be interesting.
guys.
All right, appreciate you hanging out with us, Tyler. Fine job, my friend. We'll come back and do this again Tuesday probably.
Yes.
We'll be hanging out because you'll be with, I think, Dimitri. Hopefully we'll be able to yip with you on Monday, and I'll hang out with Jay. Elijah coming in next. He's going to roll it solo today as Jay's taking a day off. It's a halftime show. Post-game show is next here on The Game.